All right, what is up, guys? So, we did our Dungeons and Dragons earlier. It's already pretty late, so I'm not going to jump into a big StarCraft stream right now. I am going to watch an interview between Harstam and David Kim. I skimmed through some of the interview. I did not actually sit down and watch most of it. I just kind of picked up on key points, but I actually want to sit down and listen to all of it as much as possible. So we are going to be doing that here today. So let's take a look at that. And it is important to pay attention to, it is important for me to pay attention to this because when it comes to David Kim, I kind of look up to him when it comes to the balance of the game. And so I am going to go ahead and look at the video here. So just give me a second. Let me get the video and open it. And I'm going to try to leave this open on the actual stream here all the way. Now I'll go ahead and capture this, by the way. If I ever listen to anything on stream, I will give credit to those people, even if it's Harstam. Now, when I was listening to some of the stuff I agreed with David Kim on. A lot of the stuff, actually. But it was kind of contradictory. And it seemed like from when I was watching snippets of it, Harstam seemed very interested. He seemed very into it, so I know that there's going to be good questions from it. So give me a second here. Maybe I should put this on a different scene instead, but let me see if I can maybe center the view. And we will move my webcam up like that. And then maybe we can just hide the scene in the back. The overlay. Like that. For now, I think that might be okay. And then we're going to move this down. I see my stuff pop back up again. I didn't have to do anything. Apparently it just popped back up on itself. Or on its own. Yeah, so that should be good. All right. Hold on a second. Nope. Nope. There we go. All right, we'll do it like that. All right, so let's take a look at this thing now. My first impressions, okay, when I do look at this is, if you look at the very top right, I know it's kind of cut here because it's specifically snippet for the video when I click on it, because I'm not going to be looking around, so I'm just showing you this title real quick. The title says, David Kim, this was my biggest mistake. Now, I'm not a fan of titles like that because the entire StarCraft community has labeled David Kim as being a failure when it comes to balancing StarCraft 2, but I think it's the complete opposite. Okay, so that's why I find that this thing is very important for me to watch. So I look up to David Kim and the way that he did things and the way that he balanced the game, because the way that the game's being currently balanced, I think, is poorly balanced. So let's go ahead and listen to this. I already noticed that, you know, when it says this is my biggest mistake, I don't like that title. I would have loved a different kind of title where it was like David Kim. This is, you know, an interview with David Kim, like legendary dev of StarCraft 2, you know, just something more positive instead of making him look like the bad guy and making it look like he made a mistake, because he didn't make a mistake. You have to understand that if we go back to the beginning of StarCraft 2, which is literally esports, by the way, esports, okay? Keep that in mind, esports. If we look at esports and the birth of esports, StarCraft 2 is what brought esports to North America, okay? It is why everybody went around and competed at MLGs and stuff way back in the day, just like I did. Who was the person that balanced the game and who created the game? Behind that balance, Mr. David Kim, okay? So to make a legend look bad, I don't really like that, okay? That's just kind of how I see it, because it's a revolutionary thing that ended up happening. You know, StarCraft 2 was the shit before League of Legends came out. When League of Legends came out, that's when StarCraft 2 started to dwindle a little bit, and it had competition. But in general, StarCraft 2 was the RTS that brought esports to all of America, okay? Because it was just like Brood War. Brood War has always been Korea, but what actually brought it physically here and where people went on main stages and started competing, it was StarCraft 2. Okay? It was StarCraft 2. And I think people need to realize how important that is. And this is the guy that was behind it for so long, and why there was so much traction and so many people for so long. Okay? So let's take a look here. Like I said, I don't really like the title. All right.
Arch of an ego came.
Okay. So let's take a
Hello,
look.
friends. Today we have an interview with David Kim. David Kim was the balance designer for StarCraft 2, was the lead balance designer for Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void, worked on Diablo for World of Warcraft, then worked under Tencent to run his own studio to create a new type of RTS.
Like Battle Aces and Stasis stuff. Yeah.
That got cancelled, and now has started a new independently run studio called A Move Games, in which they once again are trying to create a fast action-paced RTS. So we discussed pretty much everything from the early periods of StarCraft 2, how we managed to roll into the profession in the first place as a game designer and game balancer, and we talk a little bit about Blizzard in the period from 2010 to pretty much 2020, his journey onto running his first real studio under Tencent, and then we talk a little bit about
I turned it up.
RTS. We talk a little bit about the current PTR changes in StarCraft 2, and the entire conversation lasts about 2 hours. So I hope you all enjoy it.
Okay.
All right, David, good to speak to you. My first question is going to be, which games did you play a lot growing up, and where did your love for RTS kind of come from?
Probably RPGs.
Yeah, so I guess growing up, I played mostly RPG games and strategy games.
Yeah.
I guess single player, because like internet didn't exist back then. But for RTS specifically, I've played all the big RTSs of my time, right? Like Command & Conquer, Red Alert, Warcraft 2, things like that, right? But and I liked them quite a bit, but my actual love came and I guess started from when PC rooms first came out. It was like well before like StarCraft 2 or Brood War came out. There were Red Alert and Warcraft 2 that you could play multiplayer, like over LAN. Like that's why you go to a PC room to play over LAN kind of thing.
Did you live in Korea back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in Korea. And then like just playing PvP RTS was like another level of fun, right? And then my mind was blown like yet again when Brood War came out, and now there's like Battle.net, so you can play with a way bigger like range of people, right? Like people from all around the world. So that was another. So it's kind of like if I imagine like if there were no like transportation, so I have to walk everywhere, and then like horses. Like you can ride horses, and then like cars come out. Like that's kind of the level of difference that I was kind of feeling when I was little, right? So I absolutely loved it, and ever since it's kind of been my favorite. Like PvP RTS especially has been my favorite thing, kind of thing, right?
Is this mainly because it was the first genre that was being played competitively like that, or do you think there was also something in particular about the genre that really appealed to you?
Yeah, I do think so, but it's not all of it, right? Like so for example, I loved World of Warcraft. Like outside of PvP RTS, World of Warcraft PvE specifically, not PvP, is kind of my favorite game of all time, kind of thing too, right? So it's, I think, the social part, the variety of experience, because in single player you can't really change up your experience if you play the single player game over and over. It's always the same kind of thing, right? But in multiplayer with other people involved, whether it's PvE or PvP, it does kind of bring a fresh experience to the game that you are sort of replaying or whatever, right? So I think that's what I really love, but even more specifically, the gameplay of PvP RTS is what I loved too on top of that, and that's why games like StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2 are my favorite, like absolute favorite games of all time kind of thing, right? So I think it's a bit of both of these things kind of thing.
Same.
Okay, gotcha. Then when it comes to getting into game development, I guess is more of a job. What is your background there, and how did you roll into that? I scoured your LinkedIn and I saw that your first real job was in 2007 as a balancer for I think 4 games at the same time.
Yeah, so it's not same time or anything like that. So like my first job I think was actually before that. I think 2007 was when I came to Irvine and joined Blizzard, but like 1 or 2 years before that I joined Relic Entertainment. And it's kind of a, I guess, funny story that doesn't really happen these days, right? But what happened was after high school in Korea, I went to college in Vancouver, Canada, right? So I was going to, and I lived there maybe around 7 years or so. So I went to college there. I went there a little bit before college for logistics reasons, and then went to college and then worked at Relic. And then I left to come to Blizzard kind of thing, right? So what happened was I loved StarCraft 1 and Warcraft 3 so much that, so I was playing so much, and then every offline tournament that I could go to, like I attended every single one in Vancouver area, right? And then maybe it's different now, but back then, like
Me too.
like Vancouver was not one of the hubs for the best RTS players or anything like that, right?
I still
But
think that
even though-
remains true to this day.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it makes sense. So even though I'm not like a pro level player or anything like that, I managed to win or get second place in every single offline event that I went to kind of thing, right? But in this specific tournament, it was like the best player that would like, so I would always get second place if this one specific person is at that tournament too, and then I would get first place if he wasn't, right?
Do you remember his nickname by any chance?
Yeah, Smuffed, and I think his name was Stephen King.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember. Yeah, very old school. I saw him on TV a couple times, kind of thing, when he went to become pro gamer in Korea, right? So it was time when he had left already. So I was thinking, oh, like this should be pretty fun, right? Because like easy win or whatever, right? And sure enough, I went. It was an easy win because he was gone. Like not because I'm so great, but because he was gone or whatever, right?
Okay, that's a lot of fluff. I'm gonna try to dig deeper.
And the expansion for it, as well as some THQ games, because Relic was a part of like a bigger company, THQ, which I think it doesn't exist anymore, but some of those development teams asked for help too, so I worked on some of those too. Yeah.
Okay. And then in 2007, you joined Blizzard, and you became, I guess, like a junior game balance designer?
Yeah, that was exactly the position. It was called Associate Game Balance Designer. I think that it's kind of a long title, but yeah, that's what I was. So I was like the entry level, lowest level, I guess, designer on the StarCraft 2 development team. And that was the first time I got to actually do, I guess, balance design or any game design really, right? So I did things like I handled game balance as the main job. I made majority of the Blizzard made maps, I guess from when I joined until the end, right? So like I joined 3 years before the launch of Wings of Liberty, but I remember they were telling me they were working on it for 2 years before I got there. The first year was more like building the tech or something like this, and then the second year was like everyone else got involved, like artists, designers, etc. Got full-time involved, and then they were building the game kind of thing, right? And then I worked for maybe 9 years total. I left when the full support of the project has ended. It was like 1 year after. The plan was always 1 year after Legacy of the Void ships, the full support for the game will come to an end. So, but it's not. And this is what I respect so much about Blizzard too. Right?
Okay, so let's pause it there. That's actually very important to learn. So the budgeting immediately after they shipped Legacy of the Void, it would stop after 1 year. You guys hear that? So it's already, it was preordained, okay, by Blizzard, by the way. So when did Legacy of the Void first come out? I'm actually kind of curious. So it sounds like a lot of this has already been put together, right? So Legacy of the Void release date. I just want to look that up real quick. November 10, 2015. So in 2016. So I'm actually kind of curious. When did Heroes of the Storm shut down? I'm kind of curious about that. So Heroes of the Storm ended up shutting down in July 2022. But Blizzard abruptly canceled the official esports league in 2018. So they already had plans to start shutting everything down in that 2017 area. And that actually that's actually very interesting because that takes into consideration market tops before new market things start again. And right now, it seems like the new market is going to go up soon because I'm getting that vibe. Like, I'm just paying very close attention to everything. And I do think we will get a StarCraft 3 soon. I'm pretty damn sure of it. And a lot of what's going on right now is, you know, I always think about the balance thing and I believe it's almost like a psyop to overbuff Protoss constantly and piss people off because it gets people to talk about the game. Okay, you gotta understand that having a voice is very important, and it might be like that because I do know that Harstam and a lot of these other influencers have this circle that is actually involved with somebody who is over at Blizzard. I'm not involved in anything, but I'm able to predict things just like how I predicted what they would do in the previous patch because I noticed this pattern recognition. And the pattern recognition that I'm seeing here is that we're going to have something go up soon. Now, it might not necessarily be StarCraft 2, it might be a new game, right? So I'm a bit I'm trying to think because all the good times have already happened when it comes to the video games. So what else can they do right now? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But let's go ahead and continue. I don't want to get too off tangent because this is actually a long video.
When a project is done, it's not done forever, right? Like at least the kind of the bare bones, minimal maintenance support will still continue forever.
And FPS won't sell.
Players are playing the game, right? And
It'll get some buys, but it probably won't sell like a StarCraft 3 would.
So throughout this time, I handled game balance.
If I were marketing a game, I'd do StarCraft 3 because of the success of the first two games.
Over the course of 9 years, I guess, get from the most entry level to owning and being in charge of all of the PvP part of the StarCraft 2 game.
Yeah, I'd like to zoom on some of these parts a little more granular, perhaps, than maybe you can even remember, because it's, of course, been a very long time. But in 2007, when you joined initially, you said they already kind of had, like, the base tech. Were you kind of helping out with designing any of the units that were going in? From what I heard and what
yeah, Zoe made it gets people to talk about it.
StarCraft 2 initially was kind of built
like me. I'm producing more content because I'm annoyed with
the
things they're doing.
And then
right?
Whatever popped out, you just added in. Like
it
how
works.
Was that process?
Yeah, I guess I could give some specific examples there. So just
it works to imbalance the game because the last people who are here. Let me reinforce this a little bit. Okay, so you're gonna have very, very stubborn people who are like me, who are still going to stick around even through all the really bad shit. It's the same thing when it comes to like the stock market, or the same thing when it comes to crypto. We're so fucking stubborn that we stick through it. And it's the same thing when it comes to business and StarCraft 3 as an example. Like, I'm so stubborn that even if they extremely imbalance the game, I'll still probably play it, right? But what's going to end up happening is I'm going to backlash back. And that's exactly what happens also in markets. They start backlashing back. And I'm saying StarCraft is great. StarCraft needs to be great. It's my job. You know what I mean? It has to be great. We need to make it great. But what they're doing is this might be a ploy to fuck things up and really weed out the last influencers, because the last people who are around are going to be the ones that are probably going to shine in the new game, as an example. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, because we're so stubborn, we're going to stick through it. And it's the same thing with people in markets. So if you're still in like crypto after it's been down 99%, you're so fucking stubborn that you're still DCA buying into it, you're probably going to do really well. You know what I mean? It's just my opinion, like just how I see things and how I see how markets operate. And I think it's the same thing here. I'm really learning a lot when it comes to that stuff and the psychology of people. And that's also a reason why I want to listen to this, because they're labeling David Kim as being a mistake. And I completely disagree with it. So I want to see what's up. And guess what? It works. I'm making content, right? So.
State of the game was more like this, right? So Terran was the most complete. So most like finalized, least number of things that we can actually change with the race as a whole kind of.
Okay, keep in mind, he mentioned Terran is the most complete in the beginning.
Thing. Zerg was the least complete, and then Protoss was somewhere in between. That was kind of the general state of things when I joined. And then maybe some examples of...
That might be why they did Wings of Liberty first, and then they had like the little mini Protoss campaign with Zerachel.
Can't be changed. And
that makes sense.
That was changed kind of thing, right? So as I'm working as part of the unit design team too, I guess the one that I remember the most, because I was the most excited about it, and then I was feeling super confident about this one too, and it did turn out well. But curious on your thoughts too, right? Sure. So what happened was, at the time, there were lots of things I wanted to do differently, kind of thing, right? So, but the problem with, say, like Terran was, it was like so many things were done already, so not much could be changed. But what can be changed was the only thing that could be changed was if we can cut another or more Brood War units from StarCraft to Terran race to make room for a brand new unit, because there was a more hardline rule on how many units a race can have in Wings of Liberty, because we had to plan for more units being added in the next two expansions kind of thing, right? So when I realized that's possible, like it didn't take me long to realize, like, I mean, medic should be cut, because, and my reason was quite straightforward, and maybe some people don't like this line of thought, but at least for me, especially at the
if you have a medevac, why have a medic?
Was medic is not a full unit, so it's not a good designed unit. Like, it's like the healing is super important, but it's like medic as a unit, it's not a great unit design. It's actually a great ability design kind of thing, right? So
the heal is good.
Yeah, right. And very unique to the Terran race and very important, right? But I guess what I'm saying is you can't just build the medic alone and do anything with it, right? And there are other units that are good design that are like that too, right? So if you have a caster unit that does a lot of really important support utility abilities, probably more than one, then that could be a good design unit, right? But for the medic, it was just the healing ability is what it is. It's not a unit really, right? So it felt like a great one to cut to make room for a new unit because of that, right? And then my next thought was, what if we put it on the dropship, the healing on the dropship kind of thing, right? And then because I'm in charge of the game balance, I could tune it such that you have to have the healing at all times if you're using like Marines, I guess, and Marauders in this case. So tuning will be similar to Brood War in that it is a requirement to build that healing unit. And then I was thinking, then you get transport as a bonus, right? Like you're not actually
well, they have the
building
medic in
transport
the
for sake of
original
building
game.
transports. It's just you get it for free almost, right?
Yeah.
And in the campaign
healing.
of StarCraft
Then
2.
now we can solve this other kind
He's
of
talking about
goal
multiplayer.
that we've been chasing of like each race should have its very unique and very different from any other race type of thing, right? And already I was looking at, like, it was already all there when I joined, things like planetary, sensor towers, things like that, right? So Terran was already a super defensive race. And then when I look at like Protoss, who plays more in like a ball of army, like the goal is like protect the Colossus and then the Colossus will kill every kind of vibe or whatever, right? So in order to differentiate from that, it felt very cool, at least in my head, of like, if you can drop all the time because you get it for free, then you have a very defensive race that harasses more so than focuses on big battle, like big ball of army battles kind of thing, right? So it felt to me like you're solving multiple problems with the same, like, one change kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, not only have we solved the bad design unit problem, but also made room for a brand new unit of any type of any building that can come in, which was also rare. And then and then now, like, we're making something very unique that only the Terran has access to. So like three problems in one kind of thing, right? So that's what I was kind of maybe that's a good example of like something that was a good change that I was able to do. Which
How was
kind of
that perceived in the team? Because I can imagine that if you're the new guy, and the medic, in my mind, is a pretty iconic unit in Brood War already.
Yeah.
I assume that the people that designed the medic probably were still working there and probably felt a bit more of a connection to that unit than you did. And then Mr. Outsider works 2 years at Rally Games, shows up. Listen to this, guys. Like, how's that conversation?
Yeah, so I guess there's a lot of kind of funny things to that too, right? So at the core of it, like, you would think most of the designers working on StarCraft 2 also worked on StarCraft 1, right? But that was actually kind of not the case at all. Like, it was quite the opposite of it across the board, really, right? So for example, right, the StarCraft design team specifically, I think outside of the one tech designer, if I remember right, nobody else came from StarCraft 1. Like, everybody, the whole team was kind of new. And this was kind of the norm even, right? So at least from my point of view. I don't know how it was before I was there, and I don't know how it is now. But another example is when I joined the Diablo 4 team for the first time, I was like the fourth designer on a team, because like the situation was everybody on the Diablo 3 team had to focus on the last major release. I think it was like Necromancer release or something like that, which I didn't work on. So what happened?
What are you talking about, Sabaka?
Designers will get started on Diablo 4 first, and then when they're done with the last thing, everyone else will come over, kind of thing, right? So of those 4 people, not a single person worked on Diablo 3. And then when everybody else came over, it was something like the main dungeon designer was from Diablo 3. And that was kind of about it. So like, and then I guess in hindsight, it makes sense because keeping the exact same core team together to go on to the next game, this is really hard because everybody has their own needs. And then especially the timeline is like Diablo 3, if I remember right, I heard it took almost 10 years of development until launch, right? So a lot of people get kind of like, I don't want to work on Diablo anymore. I want to try like Overwatch or whatever it is, right? So because of all these reasons, like, it wasn't a common thing, I don't think, that the same team comes and makes the other thing. Yeah, and I was one of the new people, just like everybody else, right? But at the same time, why this is kind of an interesting question to me is because
I don't know,
there
man.
was that reaction in like at first, right? Because like the conversation kind of went like, so my boss, Dustin Browder at the time, he was in charge of StarCraft design kind of thing, right? So he was my direct boss.
Okay, so pay attention to the way that he's talking, okay? So the way that he's talking is he's naming people very easily. He is giving real. This is how you can tell the difference between someone who's being like fake and who's being actually very real. This is real information because he's able to like name these names and throw them out there. You know what I mean? And say this is going on, this is going on, this is going on. This is who I worked with. This is someone of importance. When you hear like that, when I hear people trying to be sneaky and hide things, you know, like, hey, we have a balance council, but we don't know who's on the balance council, or we have this Blizzard guy called an intern, but nobody knows who the fuck the intern is. You know what I mean? There's no trust. At least for me, there's no trust in those people because I'm not seeing something that is real where I'm hearing the actual real skill that's being used. So, for example, when I talk about things, I usually talk about real skill. You know what I mean? I'm not just trying to like make things up as an example. So, when I'm listening to David Kim, like it's real skill. You know, you can tell by the way he talks, with the names he's using, things like that. And I have a lot of basically, the more that I hear about it, the more I have respect for him because he is being very straightforward when he's talking. And the if I were to guess a personality type of him, he'd be like an INTP because he has perceptive abilities, which the perceptive abilities means he can probably tell if someone is being nice to him or bad or gets weird vibes and stuff like that. Someone who is judging like me, we don't give a crap. We'll say it straight to their face. We'll be like, that's why a lot of people don't like my kind of personality type. But I find it interesting because the more I'm observing him, he's the genius type. I can tell. Not the mastermind, but the genius.
And then he was in charge of all the design meetings kind of thing, right?
You can tell by his demeanor too, and the way he's acting.
Looking for this, right? I answered in like in the moment almost, right? Like I didn't even have to think about it for a few days or whatever. And then he was both surprised, I think, from how fast I answered it to the same thing that which is like, but Terran has to have like Marine and Medic. That's like the iconic thing or whatever, right? But as I presented my idea, my thoughts on reasons why, he presented his counter reasons, etc. We talked about it and then together. And then we both kind of saw like, yeah, maybe it is something worth
Same
trying
as astrology.
least, right?
I disagree.
And then when we tried it, I think we realized.
The more I study it, the more I agree with it.
This is what was so great, I think, about Blizzard as a whole, as well as the StarCraft 2 team specifically, of nobody's really intentionally ever trying to make conclusions based off of like how it feels. Like it feels so bad to cut something like Medic or something like this, right? But instead, it's more like everything was very based upon
never met anybody like that.
What anyone is saying, like open mind, and do what's best for the game, right? Not like etc. Like all these things, and by no means, like we made a lot of mistakes, right? We were learning as we go too, as a brand new team. Like game design or even game balance as a discipline was very new back then too, right? If you look, like how many games of like that esport level competitive game balance type were there even, kind of thing, right? So we were learning as we go. So by no means, I'm not saying we never made mistakes or anything weird like that, but just saying the ability for everyone to be in an environment where you could make mistakes, but you could also just discuss everything through. Nothing is like set in stone.
I agree with that, Cosmic.
Things like this environment was such an awesome experience at Blizzard, kind of thing.
Okay, I like that. In general, that seems to really be the vibe. A lot of playtesting in Blizzard as well. I assume you guys played a lot as well internally.
For sure, yeah.
Were you kind of the king of the hill there?
Yeah, I guess I was generally highest ranked, generally won all the internal tournaments that happened, etc. So I think so, but not to be confused with like, so when the Wings of Liberty beta first came out, I did beat a lot of the top end names, but that's not because I'm so good, but like it's only because
me too.
I'm good enough, so I could play at like whatever 200, 300.
I was beating Adra, and I thought he was a Smurf.
Level,
and then that's when I decided to go pro,
right? Or all the former pros even. And then if you look at everyone else, then I was quite.
Yeah. So true story. He's right about that. When I first started playing StarCraft 2, I was kind of like the normal. I was really good at Brood War. I was like B+, A-, I-Cup. But I was not like super good at StarCraft. And then all of a sudden in Wings of Liberty, when Wings of Liberty came out, it was Diamond League only. There was no Masters League. There was no Grandmasters League. Then eventually they introduced a Masters League. And then eventually after that, they introduced a Grandmasters League. So when the game first came out, the highest was actually Diamond. And I was playing, I played Hydra on the ladder, and I beat him. I remember him being a Terran player, so I thought it was a Smurf because he was playing Zerg. And then I guess he was going Zerg main in StarCraft 2, and then I always beat him all the time on the ladder, and I was surprised because I thought he was a, what do you call it? a super pro, right? He was a super pro, or he was a super pro player, and I thought he was a normie smurfing because he off raced. So when I found out, that's when I decided to go kind of like pro. You know what I mean? And that's when I was like rank 1 grandmaster a lot on the ladder, and I might not have been the best in the world, but I was a rank 1 grandmaster in North America for a long time. A lot of the time back then in Wings of Liberty.
Good, right? So I was that kind of skill level. So imagine that with like, I mean, I've been practicing and playing for 3 years before, say, like real pros. So of course I can beat the pros for a little while. So that was my kind of skill level, just to be clear, right?
Yeah.
But how the balance testing and all that went was, there was this strong desire, and I just went with it at first because I don't know any better at the time. But then the more time passed,
I think I have the
agreed with it
volume
more and
maxed.
more. But this desire of having not too many balance designers, but just part-time, I guess, form some and any way to be able to play test effectively and well too, right? So I think ever since the beginning, I
makes
always
sense.
search for the best players, who are the most
Play testers
I
should
guess,
be
who can
part-time.
play a most
I agree.
wide range of things. So like a
So nice job.
it's the
Play testing.
playing skill that matters, but also the ability to do what's right for the game matters too, right? So this is a requirement. And I would form the balance team, I guess, right, of testers pulling from all parts of the company that are interested. So that's how the balance team was always run from beginning to the end of when I left, kind of thing, right?
And it's kind of like a squad just from within Blizzard, and people from that were working on World of Warcraft. If they like playing RTS, you'd pull them in as well. And
Yeah. So I would try them out. If it works out well, then he would be added, kind of.
Yeah, so what they're basically saying here is when they started balancing the game, they did playtesting a lot in the background, and they'd hire playtesters for the game, which is kind of what you need to do when it comes to like a big RTS. Obviously, there's no more funding in StarCraft 2. So these pro players are trying to balance the game themselves, but I can tell you, like, the way that they're doing it, the problem is that you have play testers who are unbiased, right? They're not like pro players and stuff like that. They're good at a game, but they play test it. They're not necessarily the Giga Pros, and there's not like this bias of picking either Protoss, Zerg, or Terran and nerfing one race like Terran all the time, and then buffing one race all the time like Protoss. I can agree back in the day in Wings of Liberty when I first started playing StarCraft 2, and a lot of the reason why I was rank 1 Grandmaster on the ladder is because my race was overpowered. Terran was overpowered in Wings of Liberty, at least in the beginning, until people figured out Zerg. And then when people figured out Zerg, that's when Zerg became overpowered. But I was one of the few people that, before Heart of the Swarm actually came out, I knew how to be a macro Zerg, because a macro Zerg back then, casting instant fungals with going mass queens, was a big issue. That's when I started using Ravens, right, and auto turrets. And that's how I started winning a lot of my games, is because I started using Ravens and auto turrets and point defense drones, because the fungal back then did not have a blob that fired out. It actually was instant. It's like you get hit automatically. You know what I mean? It's like they click on the army and it just like splashes on them. You don't see the ball fly at them. It just splashed on them. It was like, and they're stuck. So Zerg became super overpowered at the end of Wings of Liberty, but in the early stages, I was like literally one of the best, because I was abusing Blue Flame Hellions when they were two-shotting SCVs and things like that. I was beating like QXC, who played Bio all the time, like every fucking time, doing Hellion drops, Blue Flame, you know. Terran was overpowered back then. Then Zerg became extremely overpowered, and I agree, Protoss was weak as fuck. It was. Protoss sucked, okay? And then Protoss sucked in a good chunk of Heart of the Swarm up until about the very end. It started getting good after the balances. And then when Wings of Liberty came out, it was very diverse. It felt pretty good in the beginning with the changes, and then the mothership core, because you had a bunch of different players winning everything, right? You had Protosses winning something, you had Zergs winning something, you had Terrans winning something. That might just be because the game was new and it sped up StarCraft. That is the thing. Um, but what I did notice is that when things started to become imbalanced, where Cyril started reigning supreme and winning with Zerg all the time, was literally when they nerfed the Raven down to the ground. That is when, and then all of a sudden they changed the Raven, right, to the instant shot. Oh, sorry, it's the opposite. It was Maru, and then it was Cyril. So Maru won like 2 years in a row, winning like 4 GSLs in a row, something like that. Utilizing the super fast Seeker missile with dropping the attack that did 35 damage or so and blowing everything up, like all the low HP units. That was actually very strong, unlike the Seeker missile that like dudded if you ran away from it, like when it tried to lock on. That Seeker missile was a lot better for the game because you didn't have what do you call it? It was kind of like skill based. You had to like run in and drop it and then run back, because most of the time like pro players would move back and the Seeker missile would not lock on. So that was the time when we had a bunch of diverse players. Okay, we had Terrans, Zergs, Protosses winning everything. In different format, and everything seemed rather balanced on the ladder, in my opinion. When they changed the changes, and then the Seeker missile became what it was, that is when Maru reigned supreme, because it was like instant hitting. That's when we started having a bit of imbalance with Terran. And then after they nerfed the Seeker missile to the ground, that's when we had imbalance with Zerg. Right, and then you started seeing, because there was no counter to, remember how I mentioned in Wings of Liberty, I needed the Raven versus like the Queen Infestor plays. When the Raven was dead, you couldn't just do the Queen Infestor stuff, or you didn't have a counter to the Queen Infestor stuff back then, or at least people didn't figure out Ghosts right away. That's when I started playing with Ghosts, by the way, to find a counter, and then it started working. I was always ahead of the meta, right? Especially with the way that I designed builds, I was always ahead of the meta. So then all of a sudden, Cyril won everything, right? For like 2 to 3 years straight. So then you had Terrans, you had Zergs winning everything. And then I guess because there was so much PTSD with Protoss, because there was only this very small era when Legacy of the Void released, and then a little bit of Heart of the Swarm, where Protoss was actually good at the game, or actually had a chance to win like major tournaments. But now all of a sudden they have this like insane Protoss PTSD, is the way that I look at it, that they're nerfing the shit out of Terran. They are now starting to rebuff Zerg hardcore, like way more than normal, is what I'm noticing in this last PTR. But they're still nerfing the shit out of Terran, and then they're still buffing Protoss. So what I am seeing is they're making Terran extremely weak. They're buffing Zerg up, so Zerg's going to become extremely strong now. And then with Protoss, they're buffing the crap out of Protoss now. So you're going to have way more ZVPs, basically, because there's going to be hardly any Terran players at the top anymore. You already see that kind of in the ladder stats, with the ladder stats being 50% of Protoss players. And in my opinion, that is not the way to go about balancing the game. You want to have an even playing field of players, but if you want to have Protosses win things, you can't be extreme in balancing it, because you're going to piss people off. And that's exactly what Harstam is doing with this balance council and this intern and everything. Okay, but let's continue.
Thing. And then oftentimes they would have to leave too, right? Because like, say like a dude on the cinematics team that was on the team for a long time, like he just got so swamped with work at some point. It's like, honestly, I just can't spare the time to help out anymore, right? Even though my manager says it's okay or whatever, right? Then he would exit. So it was a very fluid type of, kind of constantly changing type of analyst team kind of thing, right? Yeah.
I guess the cool thing there is that you get a lot of different viewpoints, because you have such a strong rotation of players.
Yeah.
when you
I'm just checking to see if they have
when you're
tags. There's
going
no
through the process
tags.
of getting into the beta of StarCraft 2, do you remember the general vibe in the team? Because in my mind, StarCraft 2 was, I think a lot of people were really excited for it. I think a lot of people were also kind of
I did have one more thought on that one.
Sure.
So like I completely agree, right? And this is why I think
Okay, so let me pause it. If I skip ahead, it's because in my brain the information's not that important with the specific question that he's asking. So that's the reason why. Like I don't really care about the beginning of Wings of Liberty beta. Okay, I care about the meat and bones of the actual structure of the game, and where we're at nowadays.
so when there is a game like that, right? So there's StarCraft for RTS, there's like World of Warcraft for MMO, there's like LoL for MOBAs, etc. Like you have that pinnacle game or whatever, right? A lot of people try to one up it, like I want to make a game that one ups and beats that game, but we
Yeah.
all know like that's the hardest task
The
kind of
storm
thing, right?
gates,
But for me, it's
the
like
zero spaces,
it's cool. And
the
StarCraft
gates
2,
of
my favorite
Pyre.
game of all time,
Yeah.
best traditional
It's hard to
RTS
do.
of that type. That's all cool, right? But for me, the question has always been, I think since the middle of Heart of the Swarm development, but couldn't there be another type of really fun to play RTS that really hits on the strategy of like real time strategy? So like, it's not called, the genre is not called real time who has higher APM or who executes better or who's more effective and faster, etc.
This is why I love David Kim. Are you listening to what he just said? Are you... Balance counts Harstam. I know you listen to him. He's right here telling you, man. He's right here fucking telling you. Okay? But I have a feeling that when they do these interviews and stuff, it kind of goes over his head. He might be like like trying to process the way that he is talking. But let me rewind that again for you guys to listen. Listen to what he says.
To one up it, like I want to make a game that one ups and beats that game. But we all know like
How do you one up StarCraft 2? Strategy. It's got to be fun strategy. It cannot be the mechanics and stuff. It cannot be who's faster. It's the strategy, right? This is why Stormgate failed. He is smart. He knows. There's only one way to one-up it. What's the best way to one-up it? Fucking destroy StarCraft from the inside. Make Protoss OP and just A-move, right? Is that... I do wonder if that's the case, to try to one-up StarCraft 2 with whatever this new market thing that's going to be happening, or if there's a StarCraft 3. There's going to be something, and they're going to try to one-up StarCraft 2 because they want everybody to flood on over and buy and purchase the game, basically. Now, if you make StarCraft stale and boring by balancing the game the way Harstam likes to do it, which is just A-moving, right? This is what's going to end up happening. And David Kim is giving very important information here. You one-up StarCraft 2. How can you one-up StarCraft 2? Try to sabotage it from the inside, you know what I mean? Make it stale and boring, and then try to sell your product later. And that's the vibe I'm getting here. I am actually getting that vibe. That they don't want competition. They want everybody to buy whatever that new game is. By doing that kind of like self-sabotage a little bit. But they're kind of slowly doing it. And it blows my mind that the Balance Council or the Blizzard intern or whatever, or Harstam or whoever the fuck is behind it, because they're so secretive about it, because people who are secretive are usually slimy shits. I'm just letting you guys know. Usually, right, you're... I don't even know what I was fucking getting at there. I'm fucking brain popped out. But you get the idea, right? I think that this is like a marketing thing. Okay? It is a marketing thing. I know it is. I can fucking sniff it. that's what's going on from the inside of StarCraft 2. They're probably doing that because why would you severely imbalance a game? Why would you? Oh, that's what it was. They don't listen to the community. That's what I wanted to bring up. The brain fart unfarted. Okay, they did not listen to the community. The community right now is saying, your changes suck, right? Why are you making it worse? And then you have someone like Pig come out and do the balance changes, right, for the PTR. Well, not the changes, the suggestions, right? And he had good suggestions. He wrote up some like really good stuff. Whoever the Blizzard intern is, or the people inside of it, didn't give a fuck. They didn't give a fuck. Okay? They still released the game exactly the way it was, and they still released it exactly the way that, let me see if this actually pops up over here. I have a comment here, so I can go to the actual video.
Time.
This!
Every time.
It's easy for me to figure it out.
50-50 to 25-25. They probably will.
I know how they think. They probably will.
I know they will do it.
That's why I'm able to
What
predict
ego
it.
can you have?
You know, that is why I'm actually able to predict it, guys. You know what I mean? I'm able to predict the changes. Like, I know how they're thinking. They didn't listen to the community one bit. And I actually predicted what they are going to do. And they didn't care. They didn't care. Why did they not care? Ask yourselves these questions. Why do they not care about what other people think? And why was I able to predict it? I didn't just predict it, guys. I predicted it perfectly. That's hard to do. I predicted the 25-25 mineral gas change. I predicted that they would nerf the ghosts attack. And I predicted that they would buff Protoss again. Okay? I'm just letting you know.
2011, if you recall, only 15 years ago. This was post a match in which Jinro beat MC on Scrap Station with a kind of a mass Thor. I think they still had the 250mm cannon freaking blasting everything the Protoss had. And you guys jumped in really quickly and pretty much gutted the Thor in the matchup. And it has been gutted ever since then. We haven't really seen Mech make a comeback. And then I guess the...
He's probably happy about that Mech is dead. It's nice to have no strategy in the game, right? It's easier to one-up StarCraft 2 with a new game if there's no more strategy.
The Broodlord Infestor, on the other hand, where a lot of people felt this is too strong, this is too oppressive. It was there for what felt like years, but I think if we look back at it, might have been like maybe 9 months or 12 months. Was there a change there in how you looked at balance and like how active you want to be? Like, what is the thought there?
Okay, so
He's from Europe. It is a stereotype, Peppy. I know. Same with CA and stuff. They have a very similar mindset. It's unfortunate.
yeah, so I don't remember the specifics of the Thor one, but I do remember the reason why, right? But I think rather than going into the specifics of that one, I think it's easier to just say it, and more helpful to say it more at a high level, right? But I don't think I realized this in Wings of Liberty, obviously, because there was the swarm host problem in HOTS too, which is kind of the same core problem, and I'll explain why they're the same or whatever too, right?
Oh, they're making a comeback, Swarm hosts. I'm seeing Swarm hosts a lot because there's no way to deal with Swarm hosts with all the Terran nerfs. I'm seeing that a lot more.
Oh, and then there's also the other thing was there's an even bigger core problem I didn't realize until like Dustin had already left. It was in the middle of Hunt of the Swarm development, etc. So if you want to talk about that one too, we can. And that was, I think, the biggest problem and mistake I've made in all of StarCraft 2.
Okay. Now, he is claiming that this is the biggest problem and mistake he made in StarCraft 2 was in mid Heart of the Swarm. That's interesting. Why would he say that? Because when I was observing back then, like the end, remember how I mentioned the end of Heart of the Swarm actually had more like Protoss, Zerg, and Terran champions and stuff, like a mix of all the champions and whatnot. I don't know if this is like a money issue, but I know as far as balance goes, it was in a pretty decent spot back then. You know, when you're looking at like people like MC, I remember Puck back then was like one of the best players or became one of the best players, winning championships back then. Um, you know, I'm giving him credit. It goes by Nina now, right? At the end of Heart of the Swarm. So it makes me wonder because there was a lot more balance when it came to a diverse amount of players that were winning as Terrans or Protoss. So it's interesting to hear him say this now. Now, you got to understand that back then, I wouldn't be surprised if it's because everybody hated on David Kim around that time because that's exactly what started happening. And then also in Legacy of the Void, which, you know, you guys can sit there and point at somebody. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing a bad job or they're doing a bad thing. They're really not. It's how the majority is pushed. Okay. And the majority, when they get pushed, they get loud. And they can get very loud about it. And when they get loud, then they start agreeing with each other. And you got to understand, they don't start thinking with their like own minds. That's the problem. So I'm very curious to hear this now.
Development kind of thing, right? But this was pretty massive too, right? Like, and the reason why it was the way it was.
All right, what's
like,
what's your
much
mistake?
later,
Because
like some
he's saying he made a mistake. So
time in, I guess, Heart of the Swarm or later, I realized there's a core problem here kind of thing. But in Wings of Liberty, I didn't realize this, so it was more like reacting in the moment kind of thing. But the core issue is this, I think. In a game like StarCraft 2, where so many variables are fixed, what ends up, so let me explain what I mean by so many variables are fixed. So from a player's point of view, you are only playing 3 matchups specifically, right? Because majority of players play 1 race. And within those 3 races, you have a lot of fixed things, like you have, your race has this number of units, but per matchup, the unit roster is actually much less than that total number because there are clearly units that you can't use in a certain matchup.
Right.
But every race has that, right? So that's very fixed. And then even if you look at the maps, sure, there are multiple.
okay, I'm trying to think. I can't speak for Zerg versus Protoss, but for Terran, if you refer to Bio versus Protoss, back then people didn't play mech, but I played mech, and I played it at a high level, a very high level, being a top 16 player, and I won more with mech than I did with Bio in the Protoss matchup. I used practically all the units. I did use ghosts and stuff. I did EMP the Immortals because back then the Immortals, when you hit them, the maximum amount of damage they could take is 10 shields. So if a siege tank was shooting an Immortal, this is why nobody played mech, is because with Bio you don't have that problem versus Immortals, right? Because they do low damage but at a high output. But with Siege Tank, a Siege Tank was with 50 damage or 75 damage back then would only do 10 damage to an Immortal until the shields were gone. When the shields were gone, then he did full damage. So I used Ghosts when playing Mech, and I specifically targeted Immortals. Okay? To take their shields away so they didn't get that 10 damage thing. Now they changed it completely by giving it like an extra 200 health or some shit, and it activates some extra shield on top of it now. But back then it was a 10 damage thing. Okay. I used all the units in the matchup. And it just depended on the playstyle, whether I played mech or whether I played Bio versus Protoss. Versus Zerg, it's the same thing. So this sounds very contradictory, at least from a Terran standpoint. Now, I'm not sure about ZVP. ZVP, I'm trying to think back then. You did need Immortals. People did use Phoenix. No, everybody, they used all the units. So I think what he is so focused on is that nobody played mech, probably, except for someone like me, is what I'm guessing, because nobody caught on yet, like I did. I'm just assuming, because I can't think of any other scenario, because I'm thinking of all the different scenarios, and that's like literally the only one I can think of, right? Is that people just didn't play mech versus Protoss.
Multiple maps, but I learned
Except
the
me.
hard way whenever I tried to push the boundaries that a StarCraft 2 map can't, like, it needs to be quite fixed, even though there are multiple maps, right? So I'm talking about things like the choke point to the base has to be within a certain size. The distance to the natural has to be within a specific, very fixed window range, right? The choke point there has to be a certain range, a different range. The third works, like, so it's like this all across the board. There are so many restrictions and rules on what can be a StarCraft 2 map, right? So ultimately what ends up happening, because so many variables are fixed, is there always ends up eventually being one, I guess, major or one kind of most common way that players can play, whether this is build order or units that you can build, the timings that you can attack or have to defend, etc. Per every matchup, each side, this kind of ends up happening, right? This is
Okay. So I know for a fact that we did have 3 to 4 spawn location maps back then. And then we also had some few wonky maps, right, with very interesting setups on the ladder, which made the game very interesting to have that. With the time frame that he's talking about, it's probably right before he left that they started incorporating these big restrictions, is what I'm guessing. And what I can tell you is that when you start to incorporate these kind of like big restrictions, the game is not going to be as fun, right? Because a really good player will figure out how to win even on a weird map. Okay, you shouldn't have to always have this like symmetrical normal map with a natural, except it's just painted a different color. You know what I mean? They've been doing that for a very long time with a lot of the maps in StarCraft 2 for the past like 5 years. Only recently, in the past 2 seasons, they've incorporated a single 3-player map. Okay? So I think that that's when Blizzard started making restrictions, and that was a very bad idea to do because it hurts StarCraft, in my opinion.
just how the game naturally is due to how it's built, right? So because of this, if that major strategy ends up being something where both players are never encouraged...
We need like 1 or 2 4-player map pools, and then maybe like 1 3-player map pool. We need maps with different sizes as well. Small map, big maps. They have a veto system for a reason in StarCraft 2, but I truly believe that players who are well versed in strategy games will figure out how to win on any kind of map.
To fight and just sit back.
That's what makes the game fun.
End game composition.
You know?
So, like in this, I guess, case, if what you want to do is mass, like your end goal is mass Thors, then you're never fighting, right? Because like I'm not gonna send 1 Thor to harass. Like how do I even do that? They move so slow, right?
Yeah. I put it in a medevac.
And for the Broodlord Infestor, the same thing. It's like I just want as long as I have this critical mass, I can't lose, right? And then on the other side, if I remember right, the Protoss who had to deal with it, they're thinking, oh, if I can vortex just the right amount of group, the one time, then that determines if I win or lose the game.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right?
They're talking about Wings of Liberty.
The problem with this is if you keep playing games like this, then it feels super.
That's the only time
repetitive,
they had the
super
vortex.
dull, etc. Because it's like, I mean, of course, right? Because every single game I'm playing SimCity for, whatever.
There are 2 4-player maps in the PTR. Good job. At least they're doing a good job with the map pool then. I'm actually happy about that. If they are coming out with multiplayer spawn location maps in the map pool, because that's going to make things a little bit more interesting. Now, I hope that they have also different sized maps I hope that they have some small maps and some big maps and not just all big maps, because apparently they come out with all big maps all the time, it seems like. But they're still not balancing the game correctly, in my opinion. But it sounds like in the PTR, if they have maps like that, it's probably a good thing.
Whatever, 15 minutes, there's one fight and the game ends. So if I play 10 games like this, it feels like I just played the exact same game. Even though the players that I'm playing are different, it feels very repetitive, right? But on the flip side, if you promote more action, each of the action points will have very varying degrees of wins and losses. So like, say something very simple, like I'm just dropping with 1 medevac at your base, right, at this timing. Even though I do this every single game the same way, at the same timing even, the results will vary heavily. So sometimes my dropship will get sniped, and then it's over, like I lost it or whatever. Other times I killed like so much to the point that the game has ended, I won, right? And everything in between. And more of these action moments you have throughout the whole game, more different that each of those games will feel, even though you're doing the exact same build or exact same majority strategy that everyone else is doing. So this adds a lot of replayability, variety, like a lot more fun to a game like StarCraft 2, right? So this is kind of the long kind of lesson that I learned, right? And then what's even more interesting to me from this point of view is that's kind of when I started wondering, like in the middle of Heart of the Swarm or something like this, after the whatever the Swarm host changes or whatever, I started wondering, but it is called strategy, right? Like real-time strategy, not like real-time who executes better and who fights these micro battles in these action moments better. So can there be another game that kind of thing, right? So like I was saying before, and then more specifically, that's why I've been so interested in increasing, say, like these fixed variables. So, for example, I've been exploring.
Let me pause it for a moment. He is talking like a mathematician right now. I am paying very close attention to the stuff that he's talking about. He's a smart guy. He's real smart. I'm just letting you guys know. When I was going through my degree and stuff, I was always, my professors talk like this all the time too. Like I know exactly how he's talking and his demeanor, and even when he's speaking like a little bit out of context, almost as if it's like coded to the point that most people probably wouldn't understand it, I still understand it, which is interesting. It's interesting to listen to him. Let's put it that way.
Deck building type of RTS for the longest time, and that's the reason for it. So like, if I can give a specific example relating back to one of the things that I said, so let's just say, like, look at any unit, right? Siege tank. If you have a map where you can protect all of your expansions with one choke point, because that's all there is in this one main map, that would never work in StarCraft 2 because like you can't even solve it, because say like I introduce a new unit on whatever the Zerg so that they can hard counter the siege tank so that it solves that case, then what actually ends up happening, because every like...
What's interesting is you can kind of do that in Brood War. Because of the way the... If you've ever played Brood War, the tank feels like it shoots further away compared to the size of the maps and the size of the unit. And technically you can put it on a ledge and it can defend quite a bit, because the units that try to attack, they're missing all the time, trying to shoot on top of the ledge. It's a little bit different in StarCraft 2. If you have vision, you're not missing, right? And it shoots way lower than it does in Brood War, like not as far. According to the map. So even if you had like a base where you have your natural looping around to a third, and you can put like a tank in your base on top of that area, your Zerglings can still like practically attack your third command center, and as long as they don't go to like the north sides of the command center, they won't get attacked by the tank. So in StarCraft 2, you can't pull that off. You have to actually send something else down there too, because it doesn't have that kind of range like it does in Brood War.
Like so many of the variables are fixed, is now all that's doing is you can never build siege tanks in this matchup, because I have this tool that I always bring to the game. And that also in turn means I never build this new unit either because nobody's ever building siege tanks and that's the role of the unit or whatever, right? But say like if you have a deck building RTS game, then you can totally do both of those because, so for example, and then I'm trying to take a big stab at the maps.
Okay. So here's another thing Harstam needs to listen to. So I already pointed one thing out earlier about the strategy and how to one-up StarCraft, and the only way to one-up StarCraft is to kind of like basically sabotage it and then make a game that has better strategy. It's not about mechanics, it's not about who's faster or whatever, it's about the strategy and how much fun you're playing the game, right? That was the first big point that Harstam needs to learn from David Kim, in my opinion. This is the next one here.
Too, like really different and unique maps too. So imagine a scenario where you know as the player playing the game what the map pool is for this week, and it changes every single week. And on top, say like I introduce a new unit on whatever the Zerg so that they can hard counter the
counter
so that
units.
It solves that case.
Yeah. So this is the second big point in this video. Okay. That I don't think Mr. Harstam or the Balance Council are understanding. What David Kim is saying is stuff that he's talking about means the success of an RTS game, okay? You make units to counter other units, right? Correct? Right? You're going to make a unit to counter another unit. There is this unit here that counters this unit. Siege Tank counters roaches. Get it? Right? So that's how the game's always been designed. So then they've designed a game for, like, let's say we have the Cyclone, right? The Cyclone used to do 40 damage to armored units, 20 damage to light armored units. There are certain scenarios where the Cyclone was better at than what it is currently now. So for example, it was not good versus light armored units, but it was very good versus armored units. Guess what they did? They took that away. They did it a flat 30 damage. They're doing the same thing with the Ghost right now. Okay? They're taking away its versus light and making it a flat 15 damage or whatever, which is absolute ass. I'm just going to put it that way. And by doing that, you're taking away its rolls versus other units. So then you don't have any counter units anymore. So these units are all having this base damage instead of having like a roll like it used to. So every time that they do this, they're taking away from the game and they are forcing people to play one specific style. So when you take away the diverse damages in the game, that's what happens. And so what ends up happening is you see people playing Protoss. Guess what they're doing now? Now that they have all the ultimate defenses and everything, and now that there are no counter units because they keep nerfing everything. So like, for example, they nerfed the Cyclone. Now they want to nerf the Ghost to be flat damage as well. You're going to have these stale battles where they can just spam Zealot Stalker all the time. And that's exactly what we have. You know what I mean? They're just moving in. And they're doing this like mass gateway build where they just spam Zealot Stalker, and then it's boring as fuck. So you can kind of see it here. So this is the second point that he needs to learn from this. Okay, and the Balance Council needs to learn from an actual mathematician, because I can tell he's a fucking mathematician because of the way that he's talking. Like literally. They need to learn from it.
Then what actually ends up happening, because every like
you need the counters is for the different units being used in different scenarios.
You can never build siege tanks in this matchup because I have this tool that I always bring to the game.
You shouldn't just win with only stalkers.
That also in turn means I never build this new unit either because nobody's ever building siege tanks and that's the role of the unit or whatever, right? But say like if you have a deck building RTS game, then you can totally do both of those because so for example, and then
let me write this stuff down.
A big stab at the maps too, like really different and unique maps too. So imagine a scenario where you know as the player playing the game what the map pool is for this week, and it changes every single week. And on top of that, I am free to bring my own deck to the game, right? So like, say in this specific scenario, the maps are favoring the siege tanks straight up. I don't know why my camera is straight up because of the map pool, right? And then, oh, sorry, I'm a little losing track.
All right.
So strategy is more
Just cover
important
up
than
the usual
mechanics
fixes it.
for success.
Yeah, so imagine this scenario where the map pool is heavily favoring the siege tank, right? But because it's a deck building game, it's not so simple as like,
Unit
I just bring in the
counters.
siege tank and I win all the games, right? Because it's like
Necessary.
there exists this hard counter to the siege tank. Everybody knows that a lot of players might be bringing
strategy.
So some players will be bringing the siege tank to try to win that way. Some other group of players will be trying to bring the counter to the siege tank and not the siege
Two
tank. to
very
try to
good
win that
important
way.
points
And
so
other
far.
people are thinking even more deeper than that of like,
Okay. So yeah, two very good important points. I'm going to keep pointing out other very important points here, and they need to learn from him. He's right about this. But the thing is, I don't think that they're going to attempt to learn from David Kim, because look at the way that they've titled the video. David Kim talks about his biggest mistakes in StarCraft, so they're probably not going to have any respect for him. But what I know, and what I know works, is the stuff that he's talking about. He knows. He's very in-depth. I can tell the way that he talks, how intelligent he is, and the way that he understands everything. Yet there's a lot of hate for David Kim, which I don't like.
oh, I know that people are bringing siege tanks because of the map pool, and then they're gonna bring counters. So I'm gonna try to counter that unit instead of trying to counter. So like, there's so many more kind of potentials, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, more evolving metagame in that way.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So this has been what I've been kind of wondering of like, I don't know how long it's gonna take. Like maybe it's the next one that we make, maybe it's not, etc. But wouldn't it be so cool, even from a gamer's point of view, if I can play a real-time strategy game where the strategy matters just as much as the execution? That sounds like pretty awesome, right? So like that's where like I guess my interest has been for so many years, like I mentioned before too. Yeah.
And that kind of comes from, that main realization comes midway through Heart of the Swarm development. So that's 2012, I guess 2013 is the release of Heart of the Swarm already. So
yeah,
that
something like
kind of happens in that time period.
Yeah, and I could maybe give some examples on why that happened that way too, right? So, so maybe this is a good example. Like, you know how there is that one kind of fixed like majority way that you're supposed to play a matchup, right?
Sure.
That exists per matchup.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like very rarely, someone, and then at least in my memory, usually like a non-super top-end, like maybe non-Korean player of that race will come up with something so brilliant strategically, right? And it changes the game for that matchup kind of thing, right? And these
Thank you.
moments will happen from time to time. And what was such a shame to me was whenever this happens, it's usually like that person that's so brilliant strategically gets no benefit.
payoff. Yeah.
Yeah, no payoff, right? And
He's right. Did I ever get shit? No payoff? No. I remember David Kim was watching me when I was on main stage playing against Kalazur, going Ravens. And he thought it was brilliant.
everyone else, like the best Koreans or whatever, the fastest, most efficient, these guys just take it and then master it, and then they win all the tournaments or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, I mean, but it's called it is supposed to be a strategy game where the strategy is important too. So why can't that player that's so amazing at coming up with something so awesome get some benefits, get a lot of the benefits too, right? And this is kind of where I started having this big itch, and it kept growing and growing or whatever, of like, if there was another game, like StarCraft is super fun, right? Like my favorite game of all time. But what if there is a different game where the execution matters equally to the strategy too, so that both the players who are really good at the execution can be successful, as well as the players who are really good at the strategy. And this is what I'm saying of like, if the variables keep changing week to week, say like a really different map rotation or something like this, right? Then maybe we can get there, because it's like, I mean, by the time the best execution player has figured out like, oh, that's what you've been doing all of last week.
It's gone already.
This week,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is kind of thing, right?
Look how excited David Kim is when he talks about strategy. And he talks about the unique players that come up with something interesting. Just look at how he actually like looks. But look at Harstam right now. He's like, what? Hold on. But we want to strengthen the meta. We don't want to create diversity and strengthen different kind of play styles or the underdog. We can't have that. Like, he looks confused. He's like, wait a minute. What? Like, he seems very confused about it. It's almost like it goes against his like ideology a little bit, and probably the way that he's been balancing the game. I can tell, but you got to understand that from a marketing standpoint, the strategy is the most important, because when you are being creative, it's the same thing as indulging in your fantasies and stuff. Playing RPG games, you know what I mean? It's the same thing as that. You're being creative. You're expanding your mind. You are putting in work that you're having fun doing. You know what I mean? That is what gives passion and creation to a game. When you take that away and you balance the game the way that they've been balancing it, you are hurting the game, right? And that's how they've been balancing it for so long. And every time he's talking, like, I noticed that Harstam is like, hold on a second. Like, you can tell by like the way he looks. He's like, wait, this kind of goes against like the way that I do things, like the way that he's thinking. And someone like me, okay, someone like me can't convince Harstam, okay? He has no respect for me. Someone like David Kim probably can, and is probably getting to him a little bit in the like the way that he's understanding it. You know what I mean? So I've started to notice that he starts like thinking a little bit. You'll see it like with like the eyes and the farrowing, like, huh, like really, like, you know what I mean? He's thinking. You know what I mean? That's a good sign. That is actually a very good sign that maybe it is possible that he might start thinking in this point of view now that this came out. And maybe the PTR won't go in this horrendous direction. Now, from what I've seen in the chat, though, when you're telling me that they have incorporated like 2 4-player maps in the PTR and maybe like a 3rd-player map, well, they don't even need a 3rd-player map if they have like some 4-player maps, but at least like having that diversity, right? Having the different sizes of the maps, that's actually a good thing in a good direction. Okay, but as far as like when I'm looking at the 8 worker count and Protoss starts with the chrono boost, and so I still see the bias there when it comes to the actual balance, and that's a problem. Okay, you can come out with fun maps, but if you're still imbalancing the game so that there is no diversity, that's a problem, because regardless of what map you're on, you're still going to see people playing the same way. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. We need to break out of that, you know?
Yeah, I've spoken about this before, but I like the way that... Are you familiar with Hearthstone Battlegrounds?
Oh yeah, one of my favorite games, other favorite games of all time. I'm still playing
Lots of favorite games.
Yeah,
All of them Blizzard.
Oh yeah, usually...
Okay, I don't want to hear about any Hearthstones or whatever.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so there's problems, and clearly this was a massive problem, massive mistake. It took too long to solve, like, etc. Right? But it comes from the realization that replayability is really important, but there are some restrictions that can't be changed. So like, if I, for example, in Legacy of the Void or something, made all these changes that I've been exploring for the past, whatever, 5+ years in StarCraft 2, it would not be StarCraft 2. That would be one of the most offensive things to people who love playing StarCraft 2 kind of thing.
Let me listen to this again. That seems interesting. I need to listen to it again.
I'm making an RTS, so execution matters. But what's kind of missing, I guess, for me in something like a Hearthstone Battlegrounds is I kind of wish there were some ways around someone who memorized all the answers properly for the season, etc.
Yeah.
Too, right? So it's like, so I would say kind of the opposite of like, I kind of wish like there was something a little bit more on the real time side that I've been exploring for the past, whatever, 5+ years in StarCraft 2. It would not be StarCraft 2. That would be one of the most offensive things to people who love playing StarCraft 2 kind of. So I would say kind of the opposite of like, I kind of wish like there was something a little bit more on the real time side.
Yeah, you want to be the spreadsheet nerds as well.
Yeah. And that's kind of where my biggest passion has been for so many years.
Yeah, and that comes from the kind of the understanding of that, like the investor broodlord endpoint just being, I guess, faulty in a way.
Sorry. Yeah. So there's problems, and clearly this was a massive problem, massive mistake. It took too long to solve, like etc. Right? But it comes from the realization that replayability is really important, but there are some restrictions that can't be changed. So like, if I, for example, in Legacy of the Void or something, made all these changes that I've been exploring for the past, whatever, 5+ years in StarCraft 2, it would not be StarCraft 2. That would be one of the most offensive things to people who love.
Okay, he's speaking in code, so I gotta listen to it again.
Sorry. Yeah. So there's problems, and clearly this was a massive problem, massive mistake. It took too long to solve, like.
So Harstam brought up Infestor Broodlord, okay, where there's an Infestor Broodlord situation where Cyril would run around and make a bunch of spore crawlers everywhere, right? So he's mentioning that, and then David Kim is basically saying he made a mistake.
Etc. Right? But it comes from the realization that replayability is really important, but there are some restrictions that can't be changed. So like, if I, for example, in Legacy of the Void or something, made all these changes that I've been exploring for the past, whatever, 5+ years in StarCraft 2, it would not be StarCraft 2. That would be one of the most offensive things to people who love playing StarCraft 2 kind of thing, right? So
yes. And that's exactly what the Balance Council is doing right now. I had to listen to it a couple times to make sure I really understood what he was saying. Look, he's saying, okay, there have been these changes, right? Assuming we had these changes for 5 years. Are you lagging? Is the stream lagging or no? I hope the stream is not lagging, because that would be a problem. But assuming, right, you do something for 5 years, and then you're constantly changing it like a different game, you're gonna mess up everything, basically. And so that's basically what they've been doing. So when you hammer the game down so hard, and you nerf one race constantly, and you buff another race constantly over and over and over again, it is very offensive to StarCraft 2. Okay, and that's exactly what they've been doing. It's extremely offensive. And something tells me that David Kim is not aware of the current state of StarCraft 2. He's not aware of the balances that are actually going on right now. Something tells me that he's not aware of it when he's doing this interview. He's not really paying attention to the scene at the moment. I can already kind of tell.
So the reason why I had this itch that kept growing is because I know...
Because they're doing the complete opposite of what he is mentioning. That's the third point that he is mentioning that's actually really important. You cannot change a game. Don't change game. Okay. After 5 years in one direction. In one direction. This is very important. You do not want to do that. And they've been doing that. So I'm writing down key points that the Balance Council is doing the opposite of. So I have 3 key points that they've been doing the opposite. All right, so I'm writing that down.
I can't do this on StarCraft 2 because then it would not be StarCraft 2 and it would not be right by the players who love it, kind of thing, right?
Correct. Correct. It's the same with me. It's not right.
To in the future. So, for example, I got approval towards the end of.
He's listening.
Time on
Look at his
StarCraft
face.
15
He's listening.
Prototype kind of the next RTS could be for about 6 months, right? So I had a group of maybe few designers total, including myself, just designers. We made a prototype kind of thing, right?
Where is this in the timeline? Is that 2016-ish?
Oh, so it was right. It was maybe around 6 months before I left. So part of the reason why I pitched in the first place and why they approved it in the second place and why I left the team in the third place was because StarCraft was done, right? Not like done, but like, Blizzard definition of done. And there was no more RTS left to do after this exploration. That's why I left to the Diablo 4 team kind of thing, right? But I never imagined, I guess, that there would not be so like there was StarCraft 1, and then there was Warcraft 2, and then there was StarCraft 2. So I just naturally assumed or Warcraft 3, and then StarCraft 2. So naturally assumed next one has to be Warcraft 4, and Warcraft 4 is a great game to try some of this because Warcraft 2 to Warcraft 3 was such a massive departure in the core gameplay loop. It's almost expected that 4 is going to be even more different too, right? So that's like the perfect game for it.
Yeah, so when you are here's another thing about understanding psychology too. When someone is speaking to you passionately about something and you are on terms of what they're thinking about and the way that they think, normally you're actually smiling most of the time. And so in this case, he's trying to process and learn what he's saying because it seems to be going against what he thinks. You can tell like by the way that he is looking and listening. He's paying very close attention.
We can come back to StarCraft 3, which is a more similar type of StarCraft experience.
I'm hoping he's learning something from this.
Knew that, but now I know why. The reasoning makes complete sense. After the strategy focused people, the decision makers at the company, the execs at the company that made.
Look, I'm going to pause it for a second. I already mentioned that I don't really like this title because I would have titled it something more positive instead of like David Kim making a mistake. But it does look like Harstam is literally trying to pay very close attention to what David Kim is saying and might be trying to learn from him. But I could be wrong because looking at that title feels very contradictory. But I am really hoping, right? I'm really hoping because I've got nothing against him, okay? I've got nothing against the Balance Council. It's just, I get like this, where if they're going to keep doing the thing that's actually going to hurt the game, I'm going to push back now. Because you can do it a few times, but then eventually even I'm going to start like snapping and pushing back because it's like David Kim mentioned, if you keep doing something like that for 5 years straight, or you change the core of what a game used to be, like instantly, it's gonna rub people the wrong way in the game, and that's exactly what's going on. It's rubbing me the wrong way. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm paying very close attention to all the details and all the videos and whatnot. You know.
Decision on canceling the prototype, not doing RTS in the next whatever X years in favor of these. Like they gave such good and detailed explanations to me. I understood why exactly, and then that's why I left to the.
Could you share those, or is that not possible?
Well, I guess I could. It's not like I don't think any of those execs are there now, right? Yeah. So like.
Yeah. So I'll start saying that they're doing a good job when they start going in the right direction without bias. But you gotta understand I'm blunt as hell. I'm literally blunt as hell when it comes to the game. And like I said, you can mess with it for a couple years or a few years, but I'm mentioning it's 6 to 7 years of tearing nerfs now. That is pissing me the fuck off. David Kim mentioned it 5 years. You're gonna make a big change now? You can't be doing that, man. I'm just letting you know. You can't be fucking doing that constantly. You just can't.
Like, just generally speaking, what happened was, I really wanted to
I'm
try
tired
some
of it.
this ever since like Heart of the Swarm, right? So naturally, I'm gonna try to go for it. And at the time, up to the prototype stage, the dev teams decide what to do, not the company as a whole, right? I don't know how it is now, but at the time, that's what it was. So they gave me approval to work part-time on the prototype. So I used the StarCraft 2 editor, engine, etc. I asked for one, I guess, tech designer to help with the implementation, and one designer. He was the I guess the other core designer for multiplayer all throughout. Whenever I took over, kind of thing, right? Aaron is his name. He makes indie games now because he wants to do his own thing now. Okay. But yeah, so like a team of 3 or so, we explored some of the like UX, UI, etc. improvements, and then what happened was, it was also around the time that other
They've got
games were kind of
a
wrapping
drop
up,
pack going
trying to
on
look
right
for
now.
new
I spoke
things to
about
do.
the
So
UI
it was
UX.
it was a super competitive, like.
So the drop pack in StarCraft, I made a short about it. When it pops up, and you see like the workers at the very bottom when they try to do this hack, they go gray, just like as if the drop box popped up and it's doing a countdown timer. But if you accidentally click where it's actually at, the UI UX is the graphic, okay? That's basically what it is, the interface, the graphic. If you guys are not familiar with like software, so they have the different kind of engineerings. They have like the front end, the back end. Then they have the UI UX designers, things like that, the project managers, okay? The designers are the ones that make things look pretty. Okay, it's not how like the things function, it's how they make it look pretty. So if you're unfamiliar with what it is in software, it's the way the things look nice. Okay, so when I'm looking at StarCraft 2 and they do that drop pack, I mention it. It's like almost kind of like a hack on the UI UX where the box doesn't pop up, and if you accidentally click in the center, or if you're hitting N or S because you're like spamming your SCV or something, it'll drop you out because you hit the surrender button, even though the surrender button's not there, right? Just wanted to add that in there.
What game is going to be made next type of environment.
So
and
it's
then,
the art,
like, I think mobile was
the
getting
look.
really big. Interest for mobile within Blizzard was getting really big too. So there was a lot of different, I guess, pitches or prototypes or whatever coming from the whole company kind of thing, right? So for me, I was hoping to get to that pitch stage where we can actually properly do the pitch using the prototype kind of thing, right? But never got there before it got canceled. But the reason why it got canceled was because the more strategy-focused individuals, both on like Dustin was one of the kind of decision makers group or whatever, right? Like some others that have more experience with strategy or strategy-related games, etc. But each of these guys, they all came to like my desk, and then we showed them the prototype, we played it together, etc. Right? But the TLDR was like, I was super impressed actually. Like, even though it was canceled, I didn't have any like sort of like, oh, that's bad or anything like that kind of feeling, because not only did they give like super in-depth reasons why they disagree, but also they like a lot of individuals, they went through like each and every project that they want to approve kind of thing. So like projects I haven't even heard about kind of thing, and pitches I haven't even heard about, like specific reasons on why this is what's right for the company, etc. So I felt very like, yeah, like it's canceled, and maybe I don't agree with some details, but the whole reasoning and logical thought process makes sense to me. So it's okay. So it's not going to happen in the next whatever.
Okay, so this is what happens when people nerd out. I do this a lot on stream, by the way. Okay, I'll start talking, and a lot of people might not know exactly what I'm talking about because I don't give like in-depth details. I think he's talking about a disagreement in a game, and it's probably going to. I'm going to assume it's going to lead to his decision processes on companies. Maybe I'm just assuming.
So like maybe after all of these five that are getting approved
Right.
gets made and then does well in whatever, then maybe we can talk about RTF. That was my kind of like solid conclusion kind of thing. So I didn't have any like regrets or anything like that. It was a pretty amazing experience. Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like it's a job thing he's talking about. Maybe when he left. Yeah, so it involves different companies.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry to be jumping around in time so much.
It's
I really
hard.
wanna
It's
talk a
hard
little
because
bit,
he's
like,
so
part of the story
passionate
as
about
well,
it.
and-
He's not
Yeah,
giving
so
the
many
details.
questions. It's very fun. We can,
You got to really pay attention. I can process it because I talk like that sometimes because I get too passionate about something too. I do the same thing.
because back then, to me, the first 4 years of Blizzard, or my experience with StarCraft 2, felt like it was very difficult to get any type of direct communication with anyone at Blizzard.
Oh, I see.
And a lot of the indirect communication, I think specifically towards you, might have been quite rough to receive on your end. I was kind of that, like becoming like actually really famous. I think like probably the most famous game or balance designer that has ever lived in that period of Wings of Liberty, early Heart of the Swarm. I remember
Yeah.
back then there was a dude on Twitter who was an English teacher living in Korea. He was called David Kim. And his pinned tweet was, "I am not the balance designer. Please stop flaming me." It's like,
Yeah. Oh, but so this is funny to think about, but this is actually at the core of how I was able to realize the biggest problem that I think existed in StarCraft 2 that I helped create the mistake kind of thing quite heavily too, right? So like you were saying, so like if I were to kind of summarize it in how
Okay, I need to pause for a moment here. Okay. He keeps saying that he's making mistakes. All right. Now, the more and more that I hear that, the more and more the title is valid. Okay. I don't like that though. But if David Kim keeps saying that, what I am noticing is he's not making the mistakes. Okay, he never really made big mistakes. If he made any mistakes, it might be maybe business choices. But as far as the game balance goes, I don't think he really made mistakes with it. Because everything that he's been telling me and the things that I've been writing down, I completely agree with. You know, that strategy is more important than mechanics, right? And that's what keeps a game going. Unit counters are necessary for strategy. And then don't change things after 5 years in one direction. These are 3 key points that I've already picked up on this video, and I completely agree with all of those key points. Yet he is so hard on himself. And something I've noticed is that a lot of very intelligent individuals are very hard on themselves. I was like that too. I was very hard on myself as well. When people told me that I was doing something wrong or I upset them or whatever, I always started second guessing myself and apologizing and saying that I was the one making mistakes in the past. I don't do that nowadays. And the reason I don't do that nowadays is because I know how people can think. Okay? And to me, in my honest opinion, he didn't make any mistakes. He has just heard from too many people that he's made mistakes. But it's bullshit. Okay? And I'm letting you guys know that it's bullshit. Basically. Everybody around David Kim, the internet trolls, the Reddit trolls and stuff, they're all saying that he's made mistakes. I disagree with all of them. Something can come out of somebody's mouth. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. And it's hard to get to that point. It's hard to basically red pill yourself on that. You know what I mean? Because I'm really empathizing with him right now because everybody would say the same thing about me. They're all full of shit. I'm just gonna say that straight up.
I viewed it. Maybe double check with what you remember.
You're not making mistakes unless it's just like
that
maybe
hate
business
or
related.
that whatever.
Not with
the
balance. I think you
negativity,
did a
like
good
all this
job.
stuff kept growing and growing all throughout Wings of Liberty, and then it really peaked, I think, at some point, because I remember like looking at everything as a whole, and then I remember thinking things like, I mean, if I just go to Reddit, like 90+% are negativity towards like me, the game being bad, like they
Yep.
never listen. Same with like BattleNet forums, same with
Yeah. And that's probably what pushed him away, but he's actually a very smart person. And I can tell that he's very smart because of the way that he talks and how passionate he is about stuff. A lot of these other people are not that passionate. A lot of other streamers just kind of like log on and they're trying to get through today. The passion really isn't there. With David, if you're listening to this guy, and it's probably because of my background, right, and my personality, I resonate very well with what he's saying. I completely understand. Okay? I think a normie wouldn't. I am heavily under that impression.
Team Liquid, etc. And also, I don't know if you remember, but SC2 Dead Game meme was like the biggest. Yeah, right? Like DAED.
Yeah, that DED game was
right?
it was huge. In 2011, 2012, it was already going around. Yeah.
And this made me realize the biggest mistake that I've been making, this biggest mistake maybe the whole team has been making, etc. Right? And this is kind of a really memorable thing to me because I did work quite many years to kind of fix this problem. And by the time I left, I do think it was a lot more, I guess, productive discussion. And you'll never get rid of negativity. Like this is impossible on any game. If the game is popular enough and played enough kind of thing. Right?
You have people who are going to love you and who are going to hate you.
One day I had this realization, right? Because up to this point, we've
And you just got to be like, who
working
gives a fuck
under
about the
this
people that hate
thought
you?
of, we are the experts at making,
If you're a streamer and you care
this
too
game,
much about that,
and we know
you
best.
shouldn't be a streamer.
And players will complain, which is, there's some truth to that. Like there are players who will just always complain no matter what. But we overgeneralized it too much, kind of thing, to all players, which was a massive mistake. And also, maybe I can give some other examples of how the atmosphere was, right? And the reasoning makes sense.
We need a date on that.
Like, I'm not trying to like say anything bad about it because like I made the mistake just the same as everyone else, right? But like if you remember, if you look back at some of the biggest, I guess, memes from Blizzard, right? It's things like you don't know what you like. You think you want, you know what you want, but you don't. Like we know, like so you can kind of get at the same core of what type of atmosphere it was at the old Blizzard or whatever, right? So it was more like this, right? Like so the
Okay, so this is not a good thing with the way he's talking. It's because the way he's talking right now, because he keeps saying, my mistake, my mistake. Harstam is now happy about that because it's validating his way of thinking, which is not a good way of thinking when it comes to the balance of the game. And you can tell that he's a lot happier now with the conversations because he's getting that kind of validation. It's one of those things in psychology.
You think you want, you know what you want.
He's happier,
but you don't.
You know.
Like we know, like so you can kind of get at the same core of what type of atmosphere.
We need to keep Mr. Harstam thinking. We need to see his face like in the thinking mode. We don't want to see him be like super happy because you keep saying I'm making mistakes, because all the important facts that we're talking about, the strategy that is more important than the mechanics, the unit counters necessary for strategy, don't change things super hardcore after 5 years in one direction. All of that, he's gonna forget that. If David Kim keeps saying that, he's gonna forget that. He's not gonna. He was paying attention, but now he's gonna start forgetting about it because he's gonna think, "Oh, I'm doing good." You know what I mean? And we can't have that. We need the right direction.
Was at the old Blizzard or whatever, right? So it was more like this, right? Like so the problem with this is nobody is perfect, and like I was saying earlier, we are also learning as we go too, right? Like we weren't so amazing either, kind of thing, right? It was our first time doing some of these things too, etc. So what happened is when this kind of realization hit me, I went to Dustin, and it was after the time he had left for Heroes of the Storm, but he was always there for me for like mentorship, etc.
For my point of reference, he left for Heroes of the Storm in 2013. Is that correct?
Oh, I don't know it was sometime around either during development of Heart of the Storm or after.
Okay.
And it wasn't like an abrupt translation. It was more like handing over little by little for a period of time, and then it was fully off kind of thing, right? Yeah. But he was always there for me if I needed some help or guidance or run something by, etc. And this felt like, I mean, it's one of those times where like I shouldn't just decide this by myself.
No, Harstam is smart. Look, like, I understand why people sit there and try to make fun of Harstam, right? Because I give him a lot of flack. But you got to understand, his brain is wired to go in this direction. And you got to understand that people only listen to other people that they think that they can learn from, that they respect. Okay, it's the same thing with like women and stuff, right? Women will not listen to you unless they respect you, right? You can see here that Harstam respects David Kim, so David Kim can have an influence on Harstam. Okay, someone like me, as much as I can say what I say, I will never have an influence on Harstam. Okay, because he just doesn't like me. This is why it's important for David Kim to stop saying that he's making a mistake. Because it's just going to validate him, because he's actually listening to David Kim's ideas in this video. You know what I mean? And I can't help but reinforce that more, because this is actually very important for the decisions moving forward if he can have an impact on Harstam. That's the thing. Like I said, I don't hate any of the influencers. This is the thing about being red-pilled, guys. You don't hate people, okay? You don't sit there and you make fun of them or whatever. You point out the uncomfortable truth, and that's the reason why they don't like you, okay? That's the reason they don't like me, is because I point out that uncomfortable zone that they don't like, okay? And I will call out people's names, and I will point at them if they're doing something wrong. I won't sit there and make fun of them, because a lot of these people on the internet, that's what they get off on, is making fun of other people. So, like, for example, when they try to debate me and stuff, I don't sit there and make fun of people. They make fun of me. And that is a deflection to try to gain a crowd or an audience because they think it's funny. You know what I mean? So I'm not here for that. I'm here for StarCraft to succeed. I want it to win. I want it to do well. You know what I mean? And we need an influence on the Balance Council to go in the right direction.
I should at least get a second opinion, kind of thing, right? So I went to him, and then I told him something like, I'm going to give you two extreme options, and you can only pick one or the other. And I'm just doing this so that we can save a lot of time and just get to the end. You'll realize exactly why when you make your answer, why I'm even doing this or whatever. So we can cut through all the wasted time or whatever, right? He's like, okay, right? So I gave him like option one is we know from the data and everything that we're looking at, that we have access to, that we never share with the public, right? Because we don't need to, which is also wrong, but that everything looks perfect.
Okay. Do you hear what he's saying? His ideology, I can already tell, is he doesn't like concealing things. He likes to let the public know what's going on, which is actually the opposite of what the Balance Council's doing. They're secretive. They had a balance council. Now they say they don't have a balance council. Now they say Blizzard's balancing the game, but we're dealing with an intern that has no fucking name. You see the difference here? But you can already see David Kim. He's like, well, we keep things secret, but I think it's wrong. You know what I mean? He even says that. This is why I have way more respect for David Kim, because the more he talks like this, the more I'm like, I get it, dude. It's the job. I get it. I get it. And he's throwing out names. He's saying this guy worked on this guy worked on that. He's like very straightforward about it. All the other influencers and stuff, when it comes to like Blizzard and balancing the game, they're hiding it. You know, that's why I have no respect for people that hide shit.
Perfect. But the problem is the players playing our game think it's really bad, right? That's option one.
You're talking about balance number specifically, right?
In this example, yeah.
Okay.
And then option two is the opposite of that. It's like, I mean, like when we look at anything and everything, all the data says like the game balance is bad, right? Like worse than it can ever be, right?
All the data. We have tons of data that shows that Protoss is over 50% of the players in StarCraft 2, which is a problem. Because it needs to be like 33% mostly, or close to it, with a sprinkle of random players. But it's over 50%, and they're winning most of the tournaments. But they're nerfing Terran, and they're buffing Protoss and Zerg. What's up with that?
Worse than it has ever been. But on the flip side, everybody playing the game, they just think everything is best, and this is the best balanced game ever that they've ever played, right? And then he's like, option two, right? And then I could kind of see in his eyes of like, he just had this realization too now, right? Kind of thing, right? So like we were both, it's kind of like a, oh, holy shit, right? Kind of moment. And then, so I told him something like, I don't know what the solution is, but I do think we've been making a massive mistake, and like I strongly feel this, and it sounds like you feel this now too, or whatever, right? And he said yes, right? So I'm like, okay, so I'll try my best to try to fix this problem because it's so massive, and like no promises though, right? Or how long it's gonna take, or whatever, because it's such a massive problem that we've created. But I'll try my best or whatever. And he's like, oh, cool, like you'll have my full support, like go for it, kind of thing, right? Which was very awesome, and it kind of speaks to, sure, the old Blizzard, like, who doesn't have problems or blind spots, etc., right? But this, I think this example speaks to,
everybody has
sure,
it.
we did have
Nobody's
a problem
perfect
that we've created, but also speaks towards, like, once we have the realization, it's not about like ego or anything weird like that. It's just really about doing what the best thing is for the game, kind of thing. And that was like together what was so great overall about Blizzard, kind of thing, right? Because like having experienced many different teams and many different companies, etc., it could have gone it could have been like, you can't admit that because like I don't want you to, kind of like ego based. Yeah. But there was nothing like that, which is so awesome too, right? But with that said, though, the solution was quite simple, or simpler than I expected. Because I've solved this type of problem before at an individual scale, because there were individuals at Blizzard that were very like upset, like being very negative, being very toxic, etc. And
about StarCraft 2.
Yeah. So like in the StarCraft company mailing list, like specific individuals will be known for like, oh, that guy's super toxic. Like if he ever applies to our team, like this kind of atmosphere, right? Because we're all humans too, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
So it makes sense. But how so like, whenever I saw that, it always made me feel bad, because it's like, I mean, these are like our coworkers working on the same team, sometimes same company, etc., right? So my guess was, I think they don't mean to be toxic or whatever how they're being understood, right? But in fact, I think what it is they're so passionate, they love StarCraft 2 so much, but they have no avenue to even help or even look into because everything was so guarded. Because why do we need to tell that guy what we're doing? Because we know best, so he doesn't need to know, kind of mentality, right?
I feel like I'm that guy. Oh, that rough guy. That rough guy is toxic. We can't let him in the circle, man. We can't let him in the balance circle. Screw that guy. We're not hiring him. Nope. Can't have him. But what David Kim is actually saying here is maybe those guys are just really passionate. Am I passionate, guys, or why would I be watching this fucking video? You know what I mean? Look, I understand. We live in a world where everything is coddled. But I can tell you that the most passionate individuals work the hardest. That is the truth. If you hire someone for a job who is excited, who is extremely passionate about the job, they will do a damn good job. Okay? It's the same thing with me. When I was like doing my teaching job, I really fucking cared. I stayed overtime. I really wanted to get it right. I really wanted to learn. I didn't just want to go home immediately after a day's work and just be lazy. When you are super passionate about something, you get shit done, usually. You almost always get shit done. That's something that I've learned. And that goes for anybody who has passion. David Kim was extremely passionate, I could tell. And he still is. You know, the hardest working people are the ones that are extremely passionate. Okay? It doesn't have anything to do with credentials and things like that. If someone is willing to use this up here and learn, they will do a damn good job, usually. Okay, that's just my opinion.
But what I started doing is because like internally I don't even need any approvals. It's like I'm free to talk to anybody internally because like he's not supposed to talk to the public, etc. Right? So it's easy, right? So as I tried with very specific individuals, like just being like respectful, like completely honest, completely transparent about all the reasons behind why something is the way it is, and then listening to his like counterpoints, and then when he says something that was actually right and I was wrong, I would admit it, right? And then we would find the solution together, kind of thing, right? And then these guys would turn very like productive. So like I wouldn't say like they never said anything negative or anything like that going forward, but that's not what's important. Like the core goal here is how can we utilize these passionate individuals to help make the game better? Not like how can I be liked or like whatever, how can I feel good today or tomorrow, etc. Right? So I felt like has to be the same core problem with the community too. They really like not every single person, but there must be so many people out there that just really want to see the game be better and better, but they have no avenue to do it. They don't even get to see or hear why, right? So what I tried for many years after that was every single week I did these weekly dev updates. And how those were written was very, I guess, simple, right? So I would just first take some time. It's easy because I'm always paying attention. I would just get the topics that are the most popular that week, right? And in that specific time frame, all negative topics, right? And so I would take those, and then for each of them, I would point out the specific things that I agree with, and the specific things that I disagree with. And for every point, I would give my reason on why I agree or why I disagree. And then how it would end is like, I would offer up like, yeah, so please let me know if you think I'm wrong on anything, but be very specific on the reasons why, like what you're saying is better for the game and what I'm saying is not better for the game. And then after we repeated this for say like 3 years, I could totally see the clear like overall improvement from like StarCraft 2 dead game to like very mixed positivity versus negativity versus productive discussions. Like there was all kinds of kind of mixed, and mixed is the best we can do, I think, right? Yeah, so I was very, I guess, upset when I had this realization, but eventually I was kind of happy that like, oh, like it's in a much better place than it used to be, kind of thing.
I think something cool you mentioned there is the specific point.
Okay. It's not in a much better place. Okay, something I'm noticing is that since David Kim left, he's unaware of what's going on in StarCraft. I think he's been told, like, it's doing good. That's the vibe I'm getting here.
I feel like whenever people they have like a big emotion
He's
about
out of the
something,
loop
specifically StarCraft 2 related, because
of
I mean that's my main
the
area
now
of
of
expertise.
StarCraft.
They tend to speak in very broad terms.
Yeah.
Protoss is broken, or even they're talking about, even if they're talking about a unit, it's like, oh, the warping mechanic needs to be gutted, and then it feels like the more you zoom in on the problem and the more kind of granular you get, the more understanding you get from their side, and also the more you can actually explain why things are the way they are. I always feel like that whenever you keep zooming in further and further with someone that has a problem, it tends to get solved significantly quicker. Otherwise, you just kind of keep throwing broad terms. Oh, TOS is broken, Zerg is broken, Terran is broken. Which I think is really cool that you mentioned that, because it's something that I've also personally noticed in my communication, when whether it's with my community or with the larger StarCraft community. I feel like the more broad you speak, the worse the conversation tends to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be even more specific,
Hold on. Was that just a bunch of fluff? Let me try to refollow. What was that?
had this realization, but eventually I was kind of happy that like, oh, like it's in a much better place than it used to be, kind of thing.
I think something cool you mentioned there is the specific points. I feel like whenever people they have like a big emotion about something, specifically StarCraft 2 related, because I mean that's my main area of expertise.
Let's assume that's
they
me.
tend to speak in very broad terms. Protoss is broken, or even
let's assume
they're
that's
talking
me.
about, even if they're talking about a unit, it's like, oh, the warping mechanic needs to be gutted, and then it feels like the more you zoom in on the problem and the more kind of granular you get, the more understanding you get from their side. And also the more you can actually explain why things are the way they are. I always feel like that whenever you keep zooming in further and further with someone that has a problem, it tends to get solved significantly quicker. Otherwise, you just kind of keep throwing broad terms. Oh, TOS is broken, Zerg is broken, Terran is broken. Which I think is really cool that you mentioned that, because it's something that I've also personally noticed in my communication, when whether it's with my community or with the larger StarCraft community. I feel like the more broad you speak, the worse the conversation tends to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I've never seen him do that. Maybe he's doing that in the background with people, talking and listening to what other people have to say. But if that were the case, then how come in the past 3 years, because Pig even made videos on balance suggestions 2 to 3 years straight now. I know that for a fact. And all of his ideas practically got shut down. Yet all of Harstam's ideas go through. And he just, and Pig made a lot of balance suggestions in his recent video as well. And those also got shut down. And they didn't even pay any fucking attention to him. Yet, the things that I mentioned, that I predicted, came true. Okay. Let me go back over here and bring this back up. Where am I at? 106.
Every time.
See the pattern that they use.
Every time.
When it comes to this warp gate thing, they'll probably change the 50-50 to 25-25. That's me, the date of the PTR, and then I predicted the PTR update perfectly.
They probably will.
I know how they think.
They probably will.
I know they will do it. Move the nerfs they've implemented.
Hey, let's buff all the Protoss stuff.
And then they will probably take something away from the ghost.
And then they'll take something away from the
I
ghost.
would think that the 20 damage thing is too much.
We think that the 20 damage thing is too much, so they reverted it to 15. So you can already see it there, right? Like, I'm just completely correct about everything, and I predicted it perfectly.
So how am I able to predict it perfectly? How is that even possible? Ask yourselves that question. It's because it's very easy to predict that they are biased. So what
I am leaning more toward the way that Harstam is talking to David Kim is that he's basically being hypocritical, is what it feels like. That's what it feels like. I'd have to go more in depth with what I think it's like, but that's what it feels like, you know, because of the way that he's talking. Because if that were the case, then we wouldn't be seeing this repeat, and I wouldn't be able to perfectly predict it.
And my thought today is it's collaboration with the players especially can't happen unless you have a very clear set of goals that you're trying to achieve first. So like more broad level first, right? And we go as specific as we can, like you're saying, towards these goals on every discussion that we have, right? This is how you get the best, most effective feedback and most effective collaboration too, kind of thing, I think, is one of the things that I've learned over the years. Yeah.
A particular example there that struck me as the first time where this truly got implemented, this thinking, was with the Adept at the start of Legacy of the Void, where the Adept would two-shot both Marines pre-combat shield and SCVs. And I think it was the Danish player that played for Liquid at the time, Bunny, who came in with the suggestion to make it one less damage against light, I think it was. So rather than 23, make it 22, and pretty much solve that issue. And you guys just verbatim implemented that.
I see. Yeah, I don't remember that specific example, but we did try our absolute best to kind of.
You could see he was not happy about it.
Mindset of doesn't matter.
He's like, "Did you do it?"
It's not about like, like if players are better.
Don't worry, you're doing that to all my units.
Not a contest kind of thing, right?
Now ghosts are gonna have to 3-shot instead of 2-shot. Hellbats already can't kill shit. You took the 1 damage from Hellbats.
Yeah, we just do what's best for the game. Right?
You could tell he's like, "Did you do it?"
I don't remember the specific example, but like it sounds like something that would have been smooth by the time Legacy of the Void hit, kind of thing. Yeah, right.
I have 2 more questions on Heart of the Swarm, and then I kind of want to move on Legacy of the Void a bit, and then what you've been doing afterwards. Specifically on the Warhound, and I kind of want to talk about how they did as a developer.
Okay, I'm not worried about Warhound. That's not important.
So the long answer, I guess, is you're absolutely right, right? But as a development team as a whole, that it was very loose.
Work with like more of the management structure, because I imagine they are not going to be super stoked to have like 20 people put X amount of hours into this unit that is then going to be played in one Heart of the Swarm mission.
So,
okay, they're still talking about Warhound. That has nothing to do with
3
anything.
months to do X. Kind of, you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's very cool. I guess it helps you have World of Warcraft raking in the cash in the background, though.
And StarCraft 2 was the very next game, right after World of Warcraft success, too. Right? Yeah.
Okay, so expectations are very high naturally as well because of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
That they use WoW funding. Because
that
WoW
makes
is
the most-
like
Next, my final
the
question on
cash
Heart of the
cow.
Swarm
They
is
just kind of
the,
keep getting money that way
kind of the free unit thinking.
for monthly
So
subscriptions.
a lot of people in the Brood Lord saw a unit that was spawning free units as kind of the main problem of the Brood Lord, that there was no major downside to attacking. And then you decide to implement a swarm host. What was the thinking there? Where you're like, this is different enough that it's not going to have similar problems?
No, I think the biggest problem was I didn't realize the core issue that I spoke quite long about of the one meta and then stale, etc. So it wasn't like a big.
Okay. You can also tell, right, that when Harstam is playing or talking about balance-related things, it's always why this with Zerg, why this with Terran. Okay. That was a problem. This was a problem. Why nerf Adept? Did you nerf Adept? You can tell the bias. Okay. If you pay very close attention. I'm paying very close attention to that. I'm looking at all the different examples, and the more that I hear that, the more I don't like that he's balancing the game. Okay, because he's not saying why this issue with Protoss. You know what I mean from like past example. It's why this issue with Terran, why this issue with Zerg, why did you change this Protoss thing that was good for me? You know what I mean? I'm paying attention to that.
Thing, right? And for free units, the reason why that wasn't seen as like a bit of a red flag is because there has to be a way to be able to do free units in a way that kind of thing, right? But the specifics of how it turned out was that it was the same result. So yeah, maybe in hindsight, if we had realized that lesson earlier, then that wouldn't have happened. So the Stormhorse situation, the endgame stalemate situation, would not have happened if we had that realization earlier than we did. Yeah.
In this moment, do you believe that free units are a problem, or do you think more the staleness of the endgame meta is a problem?
Oh, I absolutely don't think free units are a problem. So, like, I'll give you a very specific example, right? So, specifically in the game that we're making right now, right, at A-Move Games, all the core units, so, like, by core unit, I mean, like, the tier 1 fodder, so, like, Zealots, like Marines equivalents, Zergling equivalents, etc. They're all free. So, like, and then it's not causing us any problems just because they're free kind of thing, right? So, I guess I have a real example of, like, it's not causing any of those stalemate moments, for example, even though they're all free for everybody, right? So I don't think free units are the problem, but the real problem is any unit that causes the behavior in a game like StarCraft 2 specifically that nobody attacks until the final fight. Like, this is the core problem, I think, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No one attacks until the final fight. I'm trying to think of scenarios. Okay. So David Kim thinks that it's a problem probably to have a turtleneck. However, there is now a problem with a turtle Protoss. That's actually a very big problem at the moment. With Zerg, you can do attacks, even though it might be a little difficult, but they're more like skirmish attacks. A little Hellion here, a little Banshee here, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of a scenario where you just simply cannot attack a Terran. Because now they've made it easy. They've nerfed the living shit out of mech. So now they can pull that off very easily. Where you can just kill a Terran very quickly. And probably one of the biggest issues that he might be talking about is probably a bunch of siege tanks behind planetaries. Or they're talking about ghosts behind planetaries, which is why they're nerfing ghosts really hard. And that's just going to reinforce Mr. Harstam here to continue to reinforce that. But here's another issue, though. Protoss is worse, okay, when it comes to being able to do any kind of damage. You put a shield battery in a Protoss mineral line. You have the recalls for Protoss to come back to the base instantly. You have the energy upgrade ability coming out of the Nexus. This contradicts everything that David Kim is talking about right now. That this is a problem. Okay, so let me write that down as well. This is a problem if you can't even do any kind of attacks whatsoever. And Protoss is pretty impossible to penetrate. Okay? Problem when you can't attack. Because of specific, like, equipment, specific turtling. I guess you could say turtling. So, for example, you can't really attack a Protoss that's defending very well, I've noticed. You have to be extremely, like, it's difficult because they nerfed the widow mines. They have, like, if you try to drop or do any kind of attack, they have the shield batteries. The only successful stuff you can do to attack a Protoss, now that they put like a shield battery in a mineral line, is literally you need more than 3 Hellions to one shot. And then you need 2 Banshees at the same time to one shot. Other than that, everything else gets shut down very easily. Even Zerg has a harder time dealing with that stuff than Protoss does, because Protoss can defend almost everything now with recalls and shield batteries and everything. That is a big problem, and there's too much strong utility for Protoss. Okay. So right now, if they nerf Turtle Mech, that's fine, but I don't want Protoss to be super OP as well, because that's not really a good thing. And they currently are, and they're almost impenetrable with Shield Battery Cannon, Tempest, Templar. Okay? That's a big fucking problem.
Then I have a question for kind of moving into Legacy of the Void, because you now kind of identified that problem for yourself. Is there at any point a thought of maybe working towards map objectives in a Dota-esque manner?
Oh.
No, I don't need to listen to that. That's pointless.
Yeah,
Stress, yeah.
but it was like really surprising in a good way for the first time ever, almost kind of thing, right? Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you... So we moved from 6 workers to 12 workers in Legacy of the Void. Do you recall doing any of the major testing of the different like worker sets that you did back then? And what kind of were your takeaways on that?
Okay. He's bringing that up. They're trying to change it to 8 workers now. I'm curious to see if David Kim mentions the 40% production change. And I wonder if Harstam's going to be like, oh, with this 8 worker start thing. Because without that production change, the starting chrono boost is going to make Protoss overpowered. Especially with the warp gate changes. And how fast they warp in. Because if they're going to go with 25-25 now, that's 2 gateways. That cost the equivalent of the same old warp gate. But those 2 gateways are warping in 40% faster. You guys get it? So if you're doing 2 gateways with like a Robo build or a Stargate build early on, you're going to be fucking OP as shit. Okay? You're going to be way faster, and you're going to have way more minerals because you start out with the Chrono Boost. I'm curious to see if he brings up the production change on top of the worker change.
That and just like a quick pro con on 6 worker versus 12 worker, if you can.
Yeah. So that one's kind of a funny one because I've been going more and more down that path. So like my thought was kind of simple, right? It was like there is this part of the game in StarCraft 2 that plays identically same every single time. No like sorry, I shouldn't say no because there are some exceptions to every case. So majority of the games could be cut out.
All right. Appreciate the resub, Mr. Master. Thank you for that.
Difference for the most part, kind of thought.
Yeah, you could show a picture to me at the 2 minute
I don't know why
mark
that was
from
so
a Heart of
loud.
the Swarm game, and I would be capable of telling you what the opener was from both sides. Yeah.
So what's kind of really interesting for me to think about this question is the 12 workers was the branching point where any sort of meaningful change could happen. I think it must have been the reason why that was decided, because I do remember testing this different numbers too, kind of thing, right? But then I guess maybe quite interesting along these lines to talk about is like for Battle Aces that I worked on for whatever 4 years almost, I don't know. I went even
4 years,
further
according to your
and
LinkedIn.
even more of the most similar stages, and then in the current game that we're working on, I cut out even more than that for Battle Aces kind of thing, right? So like I've been going more and more along that line of, yeah.
So your thinking right now is the more you skip of the early game, the better it is.
Oh, so
Because there's very little strategical, meaningful things. It's mechanically not very difficult.
sorry, it's the context of the game too, right? So like in StarCraft, those mechanical differences, slight build order differences, they do end up making a big difference, right? So I would never suggest like start off StarCraft 2 game with 3 expansions up already, or 2 expansions up already, or whatever, right? But it's pretty much what I'm doing here now, right? So like your main base, it gets double the amount of resources as your expansions, right? So it's the same thing pretty much as moment 0, you're starting with an expansion.
Okay, they're talking about the new game. I'm gonna skip ahead.
By no means, right? And then I would kind of go into like, I had this big realization, like the stuff that I said kind of thing, right? And then they would kind of understand or whatever, right? And then the second story is like, I understand it completely now after having going through so much more experiences, but at the time it was very mind-blowing. So I'm wondering it might be mind-blowing to you too, and you might find it interesting. Is I talked to a lot of different companies when I was on Diablo 4 because I don't know, for whatever reason.
Okay, let's go to some more important stuff.
And then after, I don't want to rant too much, I realize now why that was the case, and it shouldn't be a surprising thing. But all this to say, like, it's quite interesting, right? Like, seeing it from the player's point of view versus seeing it from the developers is so different, right? So.
Okay, I think they're still talking about the new game.
Diablo 4.
Diablo, no, still talking about that. So you see, I'm trying to focus on StarCraft.
That thing, right? That's why.
And this was the Battle Aces opportunity.
Yeah. That's why I had to leave the WoW, which I felt so bad because I never wanted to leave any team that's the worst thing you can do to a development team after you join it, kind of thing, right? So I still feel so bad about it. I felt horrible at the time. It wasn't my intention or whatever, right? And then the other irony is
You probably got offered a better deal.
The lack of vision problem was fixed almost immediately after I left, kind of thing. Like
when you
the new
couldn't
person coming in,
close down,
person taking over, etc. So it's like, man. So it's like, I shouldn't have left in the first place, right? I should have just stuck it out, right? In hindsight, hindsight is 2020. And 2, if I had known, like I really shouldn't. So it's it's like a funny personal regret, but what could I have done? Type of.
Okay, so he's talking about probably leaving completely. But he mentioned 2020, so considering the way things have been, maybe he dodged a bullet. Maybe he did, to be honest. Or maybe he would have helped out more. But I'm just saying, man, like how bad 2020 was and the decline since the past 5 years, he probably dodged a bullet.
Situation here, right?
Yeah. So you then get your opportunity. I think you're Tencent funded with Battle Aces, right?
Oh, so it was more like Tencent internal dev team.
I hope he asks
some
about
companies like
StarCraft
internal
game.
Studios, and some other companies like Blizzard, they like having teams, right? So Blizzard had like team 1, 2, 3, 4. Tencent has studios per each of the. Yeah,
it's a long video.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And this was also still based. Is it around Irvine where?
Oh, we were fully work from home the whole time. So
yeah,
the main Tencent office is
the
in
ones
Playa
balancing
Vista,
or
which is an
not
hour and a half
listening
away
to the
from
community.
Irvine or something like this.
You're right. They should.
Yeah, which we went to a few times, but we were just full work from home. Yeah.
Okay, fully work from home. And you had a team of 50-ish?
Yeah, 50 to 60. I don't remember the specific count, but something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned before that during your pitch, you had a very strong design philosophy, as well as, I guess, a very strong management philosophy. And that design philosophy is pretty much the kind of the deck building vibe that you've been talking about.
Oh, I see. So for team building, that was actually my worry. And I was the first to, like, even before joining or whatever, before signing or whatever, I told them.
Okay, so they're talking about him being a developer at Tencent. I don't think they're going to mention
Kind of
anything anything about a StarCraft 3 or a StarCraft game, even though there was news on it. So if I take a look here, I'm pretty sure that there is. I'm sure AI. Tencent, notably. Tencent does not have an official StarCraft game released or announced. While StarCraft is owned and published by Blizzard Entertainment, Tencent notably backed a studio funded by former Blizzard developers in 2021, tasked with building a new PC RTS game, which led to the internet speculation, but is entirely separate IP. Let me see here. Was Tencent, let me look this up, was Tencent trying to buy the rights to StarCraft? Tencent has not tried to buy the rights to StarCraft 2 intellectual property itself, but they have actively invested in developing RTS games that directly compete with it and have a partnered with former StarCraft developers to create a new franchise. I remember seeing a news feed, unless the news feed was a lie, that the news feed said that they are working on trying to get the rights to the StarCraft game, but AI cannot find that for some reason.
In kind of depth, right?
This is very granular already to start with, no?
Yeah, because what I wanted to try also was, you know how most games, they make a prototype and then make the game. But I felt like, I think that will be a bit of a waste of time, because I do have something a lot more specific that I don't need to prove out something in a prototype to be able to know, kind of thing, right? So we actually never prototyped anything. We just built the game from day one, and we're doing the same thing.
Okay, still talking about the game.
Isn't the downside of that, though, is that you're very reliant on your initial vision, and how do you kind of balance that with inputs that you're getting during it? So you said that on a system level you had pretty much everything done. What if midway through testing or 4 months into development you're like, oh crap, this doesn't work as how it, because you didn't prototype at all? It would.
Okay, I'm not too worried about that either.
So his studio was VC funded. He believed that that model at its core was faulty due to not having a second game. He very strongly believed that the first game...
The experts
I'm gonna go
that
back and
really
listen to
know
that.
their space the most, just being able to do what they can do with enough freedom, can prevent majority of these types of situations that you're talking about, at least in my experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Tim Morton last week, and something that he said that I thought was very interesting.
Green Critic,
was
you're
that,
correct.
So his studio was VC funded. He believed that that model at its core was faulty.
Okay, so he's talking about the is it Stormgate? Hold on.
Too many of those issues, kind of thing, because, and I think
You
it's
said
because,
Tim Morton, right?
at the end of the day, the experts that really know their space the most, just being able to do what they can do with enough freedom, can prevent majority of these types of situations that you're talking about, at least in my experience. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Tim Morton last week. And
Okay, a conversation with Tim Morton last week. Okay, so this is obviously the guy that does Stormgate, right? Frost Giant Studios. This is interesting. Now, I want to listen to this, because now this is deep. This isn't just about StarCraft. I'm curious to see what's actually going on here. There's some information leak.
And something that he said that I thought was very interesting was that, so his studio was VC funded. He believed
His studio was VC funded. So are you telling me that all the money, the millions of dollars that was raised and funded by the community didn't go directly into everything at Frost Giant Studios, it was actually VC funded. Holy shit. Whoops. You probably shouldn't have said that, Harstam. Holy shit. I probably shouldn't have said that, man. Are you telling me Frost Giants had the money and got more money out of the community? So where did the money go?
Believe that that model at its core was faulty due to not having a second game. He very strongly believed that the first game,
Whoops.
we believe that now, should be more limited in scope, and then your second game should be more of your magnum opus, so to say, where you iterate on the systems that you perhaps created in the first game. Do you view this?
Okay, so Frost Giant sounds like it went bankrupt. Or not bankrupt, but it sounds like Stormgate failed. Okay. Is this a new project that he's talking about where now Frost Giant's being VC funded now with the second game? Because now he's talking about game 1, which was Stormgate, and then now you have game 2. So apparently they're working on another game. So Frost Giant Studios.
This similar where you kind of now you ran Battle Aces at Uncapped, and now you've started A-Move Games. Do you feel strongly about this too? And how capable are you of taking some of the systems that you made in Battle Aces and kind of move forward with those?
Oh, so I guess I can't speak to funding because I was at a company that internal team kind of thing, right? But I think the core of what he's getting at, if I'm understanding what you're relaying properly, I do agree with, right? So it's like whether you accept money from somebody else or whether you are making a game for somebody else at a different company that you have no say. So I always knew, right? Like this could be canceled anytime for any reason that I have zero control and zero say over, and it is what it is, right?
Corrado.
That's the downside. But
that's what I was trying to get at, because when Harstam basically said, "Oh, this other company is being VC," or said that they were being VC funded, I was like, "Hold on a second." But it sounds like they got bought out by venture capital, and now they are working on a new game for the venture capital, is what it sounds like. Okay. Now here's the tough thing for me though. Okay, when I'm looking at this, if they're going to do that, whoever the venture capital is that's buying out Frost Giant cannot do what they did last time, or it's going to get screwed over and it's going to fail again. They have to do it in a better way. They have to do the marketing in a better way. They can't just give out all the information. This is what the game's about. Come play the alpha. Let's host $10,000 tournaments during the alpha stages. They can't. Let's hire super expensive voice actors. They can't be doing that. Okay. I'm a bit concerned. They definitely need the project management if they're accepting other people's money for funding the new game or whatever that they're working on. And I do wish them the best. It's just, I hope that they learn from the mistakes that they've made with promoting Stormgate and promoting the influencers that are currently in StarCraft, because something I've noticed is that the Balance Council guys are all intertwined and interconnected with the Stormgate developers at a very tight. They're very tight. Okay, they're like very tight together, right? The Stormgate guys and the top influencers in StarCraft 2, which I really hope that they are not intentionally trying to sabotage StarCraft in a boring direction in order just to get game number 2 of Stormgate to try to get bought. Like, I really hope that that's not the case, because if you want a game to do well, and you want people to buy the game, you better start marketing it in a better direction, in my opinion. You can't be going around and being like, "Hey, e-girl on the internet, I think you're awesome," and stuff. It's not the best way to do it. You slam it all at once when you release the game. Okay? That's how you do it. And the game's got to be fun and strategic. Right? Even David Kim mentioned that. Strategy is more important than mechanics. That's the number one point that I have on my paper here. If you don't have that, the game's going to be boring. It's going to get stale. You know what I mean? So best of luck to them with the new game that they're doing. You know, they're getting the second chance, it sounds like. So I do hope that they do things a little bit better.
The upside is I don't have to worry about money.
And I'm not trying to rag on Frost Giant at all. I'm also not trying to rag on the StarCraft 2 influencers. It's just when I see things that my brain cannot process, well, let's just say my brain can process it, but they don't listen to my processing, and my processing is like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It gets to me, and then that's when I start criticizing. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I don't dislike anybody. It's just, and even the StarCraft 2 influencers, I want them to go in a better direction. Right? That's the whole thing. There's going to be a lot of people out there that hate me, but guess what? I don't hate anybody. I want the shit to work. I want it to do well. I want to be successful as a streamer. You know what I mean? That's the reason why. And I can't have them like screwing things over. You know what I mean? Because like I said, how am I able to like predict the PTR perfectly? Come on. Like, it's because I have this up here. You know, people think I'm egotistical or whatever. No, I just research and I understand human behavior. It's really that simple. It's not that difficult. You know, if you pay very close attention, you're passionate about something, you'll understand patterns. You'll see how things work.
I can hire
How things tick,
like,
how
there's
people
pros and cons
think.
to everything, right? And I'm sure it's similar, but different pros, different cons for VC funding, right? But at the core of it, having
We're butchering
control over
StarCraft
your
2 for
own
it. It's
fate,
possible.
there is more value.
That's
than
why
I
I'm
was
saying
thinking,
I'm hoping
but
that's
this
not the
also comes
case.
with clear and big cons too. So it's not what's better or worse type of situation. It's more like, what do you think is the best for you and what your team and what your team is specifically trying to do situation kind of thing, right? So I would never say like VC route is bad or joining a company. They're great in their own ways, probably most likely, but they have their kind of cons too. But everything has its cons. Like what we're doing right now, like self-funded, doing it all completely on our own. Like we have our clear cons too, right? But I guess I can say this as an example to show what I mean, right? So for A-Move games, the reason why we're doing what we're doing, so like the TLDR gist is we have 4.5.
Sorry, I just want to quickly plant the flag for some of the audience might be confused. So you went from Blizzard to Uncapped, which was a studio within Tencent.
Yes.
And with those, you created Battle Aces.
Yes.
Battle Aces got cancelled in 2024 or 2025?
No.
Okay, I'm not too worried about that. Let's get to the StarCraft stuff.
Pretty cool with Battle Aces that there was a... Pretty cool. Actually, two things that I thought were really cool was the game feel was insanely good. I think it's the RTS that has gotten the closest or potentially surpassed StarCraft 2 in game feel. Like the responsiveness of units, the
Okay. Still not talking StarCraft.
And then he did it in like 6 months in Battle Aces from scratch.
Okay, still talking about those games.
A-Move games. And so the advantage for someone like him is not only is he amazing at server, but he knows enough about kind of other parts of engineering. And not everyone's like this, but he specifically is. And also he plays RTS games at a high enough level to be able to...
Let's go back a little bit. So I know who he is. Who is that? Let's see.
Same for pathfinding, and that's how he's become such an expert at it. So it kind of boils down to you have to have individuals that can execute to that level, or else you'll never get there. Or like maybe you'll get there in like a
Go a tiny bit back.
I talk to enough engineers that I know, and that seemed to be kind of the average for one person to be executing it, right? And then he did it in like 6 months in Battle Aces from scratch. And then this time around, he did it in like 2 or 3 weeks from scratch. We don't own any.
Okay. They're still talking about Battle Aces.
Game of games. And so the advantage for someone like him is not only is he amazing at server, but he knows enough about kind of other parts of engineering.
Okay.
How many kind of like pillars of discipline do you differentiate between? So you got your art, you got your pathfinder, you got your server engineer. Like what else do we? What does the game consist of?
Okay. Full stack developers. Keep it simple.
Me on game design, Michael Cuevas on art, Michael Skackel on server, and Ramon Zarate on engineering. And the 0.5 because we have Walter helping out with the audio part-time. That is like...
Okay. He's throwing names out like it's not a problem. I was talking about that earlier when he's throwing names out. It's like I have more respect because he's like, hey, these are people who are working on this. They're trying to do their best for this thing. Yeah.
Between the mechanical and the
Execution is difficult to master, but also strategy is equally as difficult to master, kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, and I should also say, if anybody is interested in the specifics of any of this, then on our A-Move Games Discord channel, we do have this section called Dev Talks, where we do go into very specific points about
A-Move Games.
other designer too, right? But by the end, it's like, I mean, once I, like, it takes me, 20 minutes to come up with an idea, and then doing the layout, 10 minutes, so like 30 minutes, I'm done, kind of thing, right? So in A-Move Games, when we're like implementing the maps or whatever, I put in like 22 already, but in terms of...
Okay, they're still talking about, I don't think they've disclosed the name of the new game from A-Move Games. I'm just trying to find more about StarCraft. So I'm not too interested in listening to like Battle Aces or anything like that. I'm trying to get to like the core of StarCraft stuff. So if you see me scrolling a lot, it's because of that. So I'm assuming that most of this segment was more about the new company and the new games.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, if you guys are interested in A-Move Games, I'm sure you guys can check it out. They also have a Discord and whatnot, right? So, and I think David Kim does a good job at what he does.
So, in 2027, somewhere, if I'll send you a cheeky Discord direct message, I'll be invited into the playtest.
Oh yeah, so that's a good point, because another
Playtesting, okay, for the new game.
Content, kind of consistently.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily set like you are on like a deck building and a very strict map rotation, but I do believe that the kind of early 2000 mantra and what a lot of people are saying is what makes Brood War so great, that it never gets changed.
We're talking in StarCrafts. Let me see.
We'll definitely reach out when it's ready, kind of thing, right? Yeah. For the
Okay, cool. I'm personally really looking forward to it. It's so for me, one of the main switches kind of in thinking has also been I truly believe that RTS, in order for them to keep the strategy portion, need new content kind of consistently.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily set like you are on like a deck building and a very strict map rotation, but I do believe that the kind of early 2000 mantra and what a lot of people are saying is what makes Brood War so great, that it never gets changed. I think this is kind of faulty for modern RTS due to how good people have gotten at min-maxing and how quick information sharing is between high-level players. So there's one example that I always kind of think back of Warcraft 3, you had Happy, who was kind of this legendary player that would only play in custom games. And because there was a very limited amount of tournaments back then, he'd have like very prepared build for each and every tournament.
Happy played
But because I
StarCraft
feel
2
like esports
also.
has gotten so big, and if you have a high level game nowadays,
He played
this type of player
Terran, I
wouldn't
believe.
exist. Like this style of practice wouldn't exist in the current
Mech player.
in the current landscape that you have in RTS. So I think there needs to be new content for that to be capable, and I don't really care how it gets introduced.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to make one final pivot.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to, of course, call on my audience that if you're interested in RTS games, to definitely visit the Discord. But the final pivot is on the current PTR on StarCraft 2. Have you been following this at all or no?
No.
I watched this part already.
Yeah, I haven't been tuned in, but let me say this though, right? It's unusual and it's rare for a game like StarCraft 2 that rarely changes.
Sam,
and
appreciate
rarely
ya.
has new
Thank you
things
for
to
the
talk
raid.
about, being talked about to this degree. Like you aren't the first. Like so many people ask me my thoughts, kind of thing, right? Especially on the worker change or something like this, right? But I mean, I have my specific detailed thoughts on all those things, but I think at a high level, I think it's a great thing that whoever is doing the maintain, I don't even know who is, right?
We call him the intern.
Oh, I see. Oh, it's, it's a little offensive. I don't know, right? But I wouldn't. But,
This is
Listen to him. See, this is the problem. You know,
rare.
David Kim has been mentioning names the entire time and has been extremely open. Okay? Extremely open about everything. Harstam with Balance Council, man. He can't be disclosed. He's just the intern.
For a game like StarCraft 2 that rarely changes and rarely has new things to talk about, being talked about to this degree, like you aren't the first. Like so many people ask me my thoughts, kind of thing, right? Especially on the worker change or something like this, right? But I mean, I have my specific detailed thoughts on all those things, but I think at a high level, I think it's a great thing that whoever is doing the maintain, I don't even know who is, right?
we call him the intern.
Oh,
Okay, this just confirmed, and this just confirms, okay, now that I'm listening to the way that he's talking, David Kim is out of the loop of what's actually going on in StarCraft 2. Okay, because he's like, I don't know, is what he's saying. So by the way that he's saying, I don't know, he is unfamiliar with probably what's been happening since the Balance Council took over.
see. Oh, it's, it's a little offensive. I don't know, right? But I wouldn't. But,
This is
I like how he says, I wouldn't. He's like, wait, what? He's just called an intern? I wouldn't just name it like that. Yeah, no shit, right? But we got to keep things super, super secret for the Balance Council, because the Balance Council is almighty. And the Balance Council, what they say goes.
This is what, so the theory or the working theory is like, we don't know how accurate this is, but the working theory is that there's a team of limited individuals that work on classic games, which StarCraft 2 is one of, and they rotate between Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2, maybe Heroes of the Storm as well, and then kind of do updates. So our last update was 8 months ago, now it's our turn again, and then maybe he'll go back to Warcraft 3, which this person that we call him the intern, he's been doing God's work, honestly, implementing stuff, and we're not always happy with everything that happens, but I'm happy that there's someone to do the job. Sorry, continue with your story.
I'm not always happy, but I'm happy there's someone to do the job to buff my race and nerf Terran and make everybody just A move. That's the feels I get. Oh man, should I play it again? I'm gonna play it again. I'm gonna play it again. Every time.
See the pattern that they use.
Every time.
When it comes to this Workgate thing, they'll probably change the 50-50 to 25-25.
That's me talking to my future self.
They probably will.
I know how they think. They probably will. I know they will do it. Move the nerfs they've implemented.
Hey, let's buff all the Protoss stuff.
They definitely remove the nerfs implemented. And then they will probably take something away from the ghost.
And then they'll take something away from the
I
ghost.
would think that the 20 damage thing is too much. I think that the 20 damage thing is too much. I called that shit perfectly. I'm a fucking prophet. I'm a fucking prophet. I'm the soothsayer. I'm the overseer. I'm the divinator. I looked in my shiny fucking crystal ball and was able to fucking figure it out. Where's my crystal ball at? Shit. How come I'm able to predict this stuff? Because I know who the balance council is. I don't actually know who they are, but I know who they are, as in they're the top influencers of StarCraft 2. And it's very easy to read their mind. Very easy.
Much of an ego can you have when you're implementing this type of change? So, because this is a very big change, and you get a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
And then if midway,
This kind of, I guess,
I want to see
level
what
of
he's talking about.
passion that I can see as someone that's not even paying close attention is very cool to me, kind of thing, right?
Hold on.
yeah, and then kind of do updates. So our last update was 8 months ago. Now it's our turn again, and then maybe he'll go back to Warcraft 3, which this person that we call him the intern. He's been doing God's work, honestly, implementing stuff.
Oh,
and,
ho, ho.
Yeah,
we're not always happy with every.
Maybe he is doing God's work, okay, for StarCraft 2. Maybe it is a good thing that this guy is implementing this stuff, but my biggest question is, this intern is just being told what to do, and I hope he's only just being told what to do and isn't actually balancing the game this way, because if he's just implementing it into the game, good on him. Unfortunately, he's implementing it into the game for the wrong reasons, because he's being told by Harstam how to implement it into the game. Now, here's some very tight information here that you guys can gather from this interview. This particular interview basically is saying that, hey, Mr. Harstam is very, very, very tight with like Tim Morton and Frost Giant. He is very, very tight. He also knows specifically who the intern is. You guys can also gather that information from this specific interview. So these are very key points that you need to pay very close attention to. That means that he can relay the changes and get the changes implemented into the game. And this is a very important thing, because that basically, I've been right the entire time, and I will continue to be right the entire time, because I can already read your mind, Mr. Harstam, because I know how you think, which is why I was able to predict what your PTR changes were when they came out. And it just reinforces everything. And when I say reinforces, I don't mean just like lightly reinforces. It hard reinforces that I am correct about everything that I've been saying about you and how you balance the game. Okay? And let's just go ahead and bring that up here, because it's very blatantly obvious. You know, if you look at that, Harstam proposes balance changes. And you can already see just in the titles that he got all the changes that he suggested in the game. But then he says these are Harstam's proposed changes, but then Blizzard releases new StarCraft 2 patch. So I don't know if you guys are actually like seeing this, Like up here, it says it's his proposed changes. And then down here in this other video that came out much later, which was 3 months later, it's Blizzard releases new StarCraft 2 patch changes. But in his suggestion video, which is Harstam's proposed balance changes, he got everything that he wanted with very slight adjustments, which is exactly why he got everything in this specific in this specific video where he's claiming Blizzard is balancing the game. So this specific interview basically says that everything I've been saying, I've been correct the past 2 years. Okay? You've basically confirmed. If we brought this into a court in front of a judge, the judge would rule in my favor because all the evidence leads to it. And you've basically announced that you know all these things and that you are the one that's practically balancing StarCraft 2. And I really hope that David Kim has reinforced that you're going in the wrong direction, because I wrote it all down right here, okay, on this paper. 1, strategy is more important than mechanics in order for a game to succeed. 2, unit counters necessary for strategy. By taking away the ghost damage and setting it from 20 to 20 versus light to a flat 10 damage, going to just straight up 15 flat damage, you are taking that away, just like you did with the Cyclone, and just like what happened with some of these other units in the past. Okay, number 3, don't change things after 5 years in one direction. You've been constantly nerfing specifically Terran in one direction, and you've been constantly buffing Protoss in one direction, because we already know that you are the Balance Council, and you're the one balancing the game, because this video confirms it. 4, toxic people might just be passionate at the game. So maybe someone like me, because David Kim mentioned that in this video, that a lot of companies and stuff, they will try to keep people who might be like toxic away, even though they might be extremely intelligent. Someone like me who is like, what, super toxic because I speak the uncomfortable truth, but am I just stupid or something, or am I actually intelligent because I'm actually able to predict the change that you actually came out with? Maybe I understand things a bit more than most people. Maybe I do understand that. Maybe that's why I have a big fucking head about it too, and maybe that's why there is an ego there. Maybe because I just keep becoming right about things. When am I going to be proven wrong? That's what I have to ask myself. When can I be proven wrong? Because everything that I have been pointing out, I've been right about. And that just reinforces it. That's the problem. You know what I mean? So you can't hate someone for being right and basically being like, hey, I hate to say it, but this is the truth, and you guys are just hiding stuff all the time, you know? That's the thing. And then what's the other one? Problem when you can't attack because of specific turtling. Oh yeah, so the turtling strategies and stuff, right? So you've basically made Protoss a turtle house. They have the recalls, they have the shield batteries everywhere, they have everything, they can defend everything, they can throw up a bunch of Psy Storms and zone out because the Psy Storms last longer now. Tempests are force supply, they can camp behind mass Tempests, behind mass shield batteries and stuff like that, and yet Terran turtling is a fucking problem, right? I never really understood that. So, yeah, basically I'm pointing those things out. I hope you can learn from David Kim, because those 5 specific points David Kim mentioned, and you've been going in the wrong direction with the game with those specific points. Unless this is some kind of fucking psyop with Tim Morton to try to thrash fucking StarCraft in order for their game to succeed later on. But I can tell you right now that that is the wrong approach. It's almost the same thing as networking in video games. You want a video game that is still going to succeed, but then it can triumph over a different video game because it's just better. And by doing that, you're retaining at least the the RTS people, you know, that are playing the game, rather than sending them away and then they don't know anything about the game anymore, and then the communities grow smaller, because this is not just a StarCraft community, it's like an RTS community. Okay, and a lot of people don't look at it in that aspect. They just think, oh, it's just a StarCraft community. If we destroy StarCraft, then they'll buy our game or something. I really hope that that's not the case, because it's just going to backfire, just like it did with Stormgate, and we can't be having that. It definitely can't be having it. Okay, I do wish them luck. I hope that they do well. You know, I hope that the new game for Stormgate, or sorry, the new game for Frost Giant does well. But I think that those are some very key important points, because if the game is super fun and stuff, then I'd probably play it too, right? But at the moment, we got to focus on StarCraft. And if I'm not being pulled in by something like Stormgate, then you got to understand that it's not working. You know what I mean? It's really that simple. You got to have a really cool idea, right? And you can't reveal all your secrets right away. People don't like that. It doesn't build up any kind of like tension, marketing tension and stuff. So I don't think that they really understand that part of the marketing. So hopefully whoever the VCs are that are behind it, that are funding it, will know that kind of marketing stuff. We are getting to that point where the markets are going to go up, so and people are going to be thrashing money around. So it'll be interesting, that's for sure. I don't really know if there is much more.
I think that happens, but I'm happy that there's someone to do the job. Sorry, continue with your story.
Well, let's see.
But my thought was very similar along the lines, right? For whoever it is or that is doing that, to create that much kind of hype, discussions, etc., I think that's a great thing for something like a StarCraft 2, right? And then if any change was whatever wrong, you could revert it, worst case scenario, right? Not the worst of deals. Or
Yeah, you could revert it, right? How come they don't revert anything? There's so much backlash, but they never revert anything in StarCraft. They constantly keep nerfing Terran, or doing some stupid-ass change. You know what I mean? They never revert anything. I've literally noticed that. Have you guys noticed it? Look, even David, I'm going to write that 6 point down, because that's a good one. We're at like the end of the video, but there's another good one there. If things are fucked up, you can revert it. All right. Revert. Revert. I mentioned that so many times. God damn. Like literally. Let me look at my X feed real quick. Let me see. I bet you I can just type. I could go to my profile. I can go to my search thing and type in just revert, and there'll probably be like 1,000 things. Oh man, let's take a look here. Here we go. Here we go, guys. Yes. Yeah. All right. Revert all the nerfs. Save StarCraft 2. Then everything else is nerfed with one revert to the Widowmine after nerfing it 5 times. Like they do one revert and then they keep 5 nerfs. If you want StarCraft 2 great again, revert the patch. Revert. We need a revert as soon as possible. Look at this chart. We need a revert as soon as possible. Look at the dwindling of this chart. Okay? Just revert the changes that took the fun out of the game and make people happy. I see. Okay. TVP is how OP Protoss current in this state. I see it on all streams. Time to revert StarCraft 2 and make StarCraft 2 great again. Dude, it keeps going. It keeps going. Dude, everything David Kim says, I execute. Okay? If you're paying attention to the way he's talking, pay attention to like his actual words, and you'll see all of this stuff. All of these points I wrote down, I have been executing these points and been telling them to take these points. Literally. I've been on point with this shit. Just like I was on point with figuring out the damn patch instantly with the PTR update. You know what I mean?
As long as it doesn't happen during a tournament, all results are all like messed up or something like this. So it was very cool for me to hear that people are excited, they're discussing more, etc. And just this kind of, I guess, level of passion that I can see as someone that's not even paying close attention is very cool to me, kind of thing.
He's not paying attention. He even says it. He's like, "Oh, they're patching the game. Everybody's happy. I'm not paying attention to what's going on, but I'm happy that that's happening." Harstam looks so happy, man. He's like, "I'm doing such a great job. Even though everybody's shitting on me right now and everybody dislikes the patch, I'm doing such a great job because David Kim just said it. It's just a sensory approach. He's got that sensor going off." He's like, "Yes, the validation. Even though I'm not paying attention strictly to David Kim's words, I'm getting the validation I want." You know what I mean? He's not really listening to him. Because if he was really listening to him, instead of looking for the validation, he would really understand that David Kim's out of the loop. He doesn't really know what's going on. David Kim even said that.
Yeah. Okay, one final question. Just to kind of go on this, is how much of an ego can you have when you're implementing this type of change? So
Oh, here we go. Ooh, how much of an ego can we have? I didn't hear that part yet. I only heard the previous part. Yeah, this is interesting. I'm the one putting in the changes. I'm feeling the ego, man.
because this is a very big change and you get a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
And then if midway through you realize it's not working out the way I want it,
Okay.
how bad does it feel to kind of swallow that again?
So I might be
Okay.
biased because not only
Okay, so he's basically saying, I'm asking somebody who's been in a tight spot, right? I am a bit worried about going through with this change because I'm pushing this change hard, is what he's saying. He is interpreting himself right now, okay? He is asking a question for clarity from someone who is a developer. Now, instead of me like feeling 99% that he is balancing the game, it has been bumped up to 100% because he is literally asking for advice now. So all the information that I've gathered here just reinforced. I mean, like, when I said hard reinforced, it 100% reinforced it now. Because he is the balancer, okay, right now. Because he has a lot of pressure under his plate. And he is in a very tight cahoots with Frost Giant. All right, so keep that in mind.
do I think ego-based approach is horrible for any game developer, but also I do have certain
Ooh. Oh! Ooh! Ooh! Damn! He said an evil-based approach. Did I hear that correctly? Let me rewind that.
And just to kind of go on this, is the how much of an ego can you have when you're implementing this type of change? So, because this.
You know what I've been saying the entire time? I've been saying they're evil. Dude, I think like David Kim, like exactly. I have a lot of respect for David Kim. David Kim does not know what's going on, by the way. But if he said that, I need to listen if that's what I heard.
This is a very big change, and you get a lot of
Did
people
I hear
talking
that
about
correctly?
it. And then if midway through you realize it's not working out the way I wanted, how bad does it feel to kind of swallow that again?
So
Okay. So he's like, do I force the implementation or do I swallow it and take the L for trying to implement this thing the way that I want to, is basically what he's saying.
I might be biased because not only do I think ego-based approach is horrible.
He said evil-based approach. And that is where I keep saying that what they're doing is evil. Wow. I feel really good about myself. Okay? Like, this just gives me even more clarity that I am saying the right thing. That I am doing the right thing for StarCraft 2. And the good guy, okay, even though I'm acting chaotic good, okay? Now, chaotic good means I'm taking a very harsh approach, a very blunt approach. I'm not trying to be nice about it. I am doing the right thing, though. That's the thing. And I even say this on my stream. There's these... What they're doing is evil. And this is exactly what David Kim just said. It's an evil-based approach. Oh, ego-based? Let me listen to it again. Okay. One more time.
Change, and you get a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
And then if midway through you realize it's not working out the way I wanted, how bad does it feel?
Maybe
to
you're right.
kind
Maybe
of
I'm just hearing it wrong.
swallow that again.
So I might be biased because not only do I think ego-based approach is horrible for any game.
It might be, you might be right. Maybe it says ego. Evil or ego, it feels like the same thing. To me, it's weird because it sounds like evil, and I just listened to it again. But I can tell that maybe it's the accent, right? So maybe you're right. Maybe it is. Maybe he is saying ego, even though it doesn't feel like. Or I think that he's not saying it that way. So maybe it is ego because he did mention ego, right? But still, I still think it's the same thing, though.
Game developer,
You know.
but also I do have certain life values personally that I work towards, and humility, the opposite of ego, is actually one of the kind of thing, right? So I might be biased, but my personal thought is ego will
Turn on subtitles. Is there a way to do that? How do I turn on subtitles? Let me see. Stats. Share, no. Download, no. I don't know how to do it.
only get in their way.
It doesn't matter.
Even problems appear.
I'm
whether
pretty
it
sure
leads
it's
to
ego.
Problems, etc. Right? The right way to go is
I'm pretty
set
sure
that
it's
down
ego. The way you
and just
said it.
focus on like making the game better or kind of thing, right? So that's just my personal TLDR, and maybe a good example of what I mean is like one of the three, I guess, studio values at Uncapped Games was like reasoning over ego, which is speaking towards something. So I would every single person that comes in, like during interviews, and then final reminder when they first come in of like, I would give examples of like, hey, it might sound kind of funny, but I seriously mean it, right? When I say something like, hey, do you know how many years I've been doing X, like game balance for? How dare you to challenge me? And then they would all laugh because they've
A CC button. I wanna learn what SCC button is. Where is that at? To the right? I don't see an SCC button. Oh, just type C.
All heard this sort of sentiment before.
Oh!
From one development team.
Nice.
Or approach
Thank you.
is horrible for any
Change, and you get a lot of
life values personally that I work towards, and humility, the opposite of ego, is actually one of the kind of thing, right? So I might be biased, but my personal thought is ego will only get in the way and make even problems appear when there doesn't even need to be problems, etc. Right? The right way to go is set that down and just focus on like making the game better or kind of thing, right? So that's just my personal TLDR. And maybe a good example of what I mean is like one of the three, I guess, studio values at Uncapped Games was like reasoning over ego, which is speaking towards something. So I would, every single person that comes in, like during interviews, and then final reminder when they first come in,
7.
was like, I would give
Reasoning
examples
over
of like,
ego.
hey, it might sound kind of funny, but I seriously mean it, right? When I say something like, hey, do you know how many years I've been doing X, like game balance for? How dare you to challenge me? And then they would all laugh because they've all heard this sort of sentiment before from one development team or another kind of thing, right? We all have. But I would say like never, like nobody ever does this here kind of thing, right? It's the polar opposite of no matter how bad something sounds or even like offensive something sounds, you do what's right for the game. Like set that ego down kind of mentality, right? So because of this, I have very strong thoughts on this one. So I kind of like babbled on a little too much longer than I should have, but that's my thoughts on ego versus game development. Yeah.
Okay. So there's I have 7 really good points down now. All of which have been contradictory to the way Harstam's been balancing the game. All of them are contradictory. Okay? Strategy is more important than mechanics. The Balance Council has been balancing toward mechanics, A-moving. They've been nerfing all the AoE units, all the spellcasting units in the game. Yeah, all the spellcasters. They can continue to nerf the Ghost. They nerf the Infestor. They nerf the Viper's parasitic bombs. They nerfed everything when it comes to basic strategy, and by giving Protoss like all the shield batteries, the recalls, and all that. The safe spaces, right? Unit counters are necessary for strategy, so having light damage to normal damage or armored damage to normal damage outputs, kind of like the Ghost having 20 damage to light, 10 damage to normal. By changing that to a base of 15, it's taken away from the strategy for unit counters. It's the same thing with the Cyclone when it had the 40 damage and the 20 versus light, and they made it a flat 30. You're taking away the strategy to the necessary unit counters for that. Don't change things in one direction for 5 years straight. They've been doing that with Protoss. They've been constantly buffing Protoss for 5 years straight. They've been constantly nerfing Terran for 5 years straight. These are things I'm pointing out that David Kim said, by the way. Toxic people might just be passionate at the game, so maybe I am passionate about the game, even though people depict me as being toxic. I would not be sitting here for 2, 3, 4 fucking hours listening to this if I didn't care about the game, if I didn't care about it succeeding, basically. Problem when you can't attack because of specific turtling and strong utility. Well, they've already nerfed the crap out of Terran. How come Protoss gets to camp all day if they want to? Like, they can do anything that they want. They can camp, they can be out on the map with mass stalkers, whatever, right? That's the problem. If things are messed up, you can revert the game. How come they've never reverted the game once? That's the problem. They never revert the game at all. They never try to go back to the way things used to be. They just constantly hammering in new things, and then people are just going to forget over the years, because each year there's always some kind of change that just changes the game completely. And then you have StarCraft 2 that is very unrecognizable because of it. So that's also something that's going on as well. And the seventh one here I've got is reasoning over ego. So basically what David Kim is saying is Harstam wanted advice because he's balancing the game, as you can see there, with the way he is saying things. And he's like, okay, we're coming out with a new patch change, is basically what Harstam is saying. I have this ego with this change, and I'm trying to force a change, which is probably the warp gate stuff, and then the changes to the ghost and all that. He's basically confirming it. You can go back into this video or back into the original video here that Harstam is saying. Go straight to the end, the last 5 minutes or so, or explaining it, the last 10 minutes. You guys can look at that again. But David Kim is like, don't force it. You need more reasoning over it instead of trying to force the change. So I'm actually curious. They should not force the change in the PTR, right? So if he cares at all about anything from this interview in any of these key points that I've written down, Harstam will actually listen to David Kim. If he doesn't give a shit and his ego's intact and he wants to push things and hurt the community more, then he can go ahead and release the PTR. It's that simple. Regardless of what fucking happens, I really don't give a shit because I will adjust. Unfortunately, the impact on the whole entire StarCraft 2 community is the problem that I'm worried about. And I'm hoping that people will continue to come to the stream and watch the stream as I'm playing StarCraft 2, even if I might get even more frustrated because their changes suck. You know what I mean? Now, there are some good things that I heard, like with the maps. So I am optimistic about the maps because I heard that there are multi-spawn location maps, which is a good thing. However, I am not a fan of the balanced direction that they're still pushing the game, right? So those are just some key things that I'm hearing here.
My truly final question, the third truly final one, is going to be, if there was one thing you could, before you left the StarCraft 2 development, if there's one thing you could have implemented or one thing you would have changed, taken away or added, is there anything that's kind of top of mind where you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this, or no regrets?
He's trying to get ideas because he wants to improve because there's so much backlash that's going on toward his changes. And so he's asking for his advice, basically.
That's a tough question because I was like so surprised because I was expecting way bigger problems, and I was so focused on making sure that it's good after I leave. So I wasn't in the mode of like, I want to do X, Y, Z, and then these are the new things that I want to do. Like, it wasn't that. It was more like, I really hope like it's not all messed up or whatever right before I leave, so that like there's no resources to be able to fix these major.
It's okay, David Kim. You did a good job, man. Everything that followed was a problem.
Kind of thing. But I guess one thing is, I feel like the automated tournaments feature was not good. So like at the TLDR,
yeah, nobody uses it.
We had better design plans, etc. for it, but we kind of ran out of time. And I think introducing such a like I don't want to call it half-ass, but like just doing something minimum, just because we're out of time, I think it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like maybe it was better just to design something like way simpler to begin with, or something that a feature that is very simple but it hits on that fantasy maybe. But the way it was done, I don't know if it's been improved or anything like that now, but I guess that is a regret that I do have.
No one uses it. That time and resource could have gone somewhere else. And when he's talking about like a specific fantasy or whatever, that's how you become passionate about specific games and the specific fantasies of playing a game, right? Because like right now I'm playing BattleTech, and I've got that fantasy in my head, that fantasy of the hardcore lore playthrough that's very realistic. You know, I'm not playing it like a game. I'm playing it as a story in my head that I'm playing. I'm having pilots die. It's very difficult. It's hard to get mechs together. You know what I mean? I have that fantasy for it, you know? And stuff like that is what keeps people playing a video game. You know, they have other video games out there. You know, you look at when I'm playing Doom, I'm doing like the hardcore runs. There is that like execution of perfection, that kind of like fantasy that I'm doing in that game. If you play like Baldur's Gate 3 or something, sometimes people mod games to get their own little fucking fantasies going. You know, people do like different things, right? That is what keeps drawing people back into a game. You know what I mean? If you can just add a little something to it that would have been useful, maybe it was like another skin to the game, right? Before they left, maybe they added another cool ass skin that people like to see. Now you have this like cool ass fucking marauder walking around with like this like super cool skin. That's another thing that would like keep people playing because they're like, man, I got these cool units and I kick ass at this game. You know what I mean? So you got to understand that a lot of passionate stuff, and where a lot of psychology comes from with passion, it comes from how you interpret a video game or how you interpret whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? So I think that that's a really important thing. I do that with Dungeons and Dragons as well, right? Because I'm a dungeon master. I played Dungeons and Dragons actually today before I did this stream. That is also a fantasy, right? I'm creating my own fantasy in a world by using the lore that I'm reading in the books, but I get to do it in my own way. And people love that stuff. People love being able to play games in their own way. That means not forcing people to play one style in StarCraft 2. Maybe I want to play a different style. Maybe I want to play it my own way. My own way that I know how it used to work in the past. Because that is what makes the game fun. That is what makes me come back to play the game. Maybe I'm just not that good at the game, but maybe I just really loved seeing like Seeker missiles blow up units. Maybe I just love seeing my Disruptor blow up a roach in one hit. You know, even if I'm just playing co-op shit. That's what gets people to come back to play the video games. This is why I'm saying, like, when you're nerfing those AoE units and stuff, it fucks everything up. You know what I mean? And so that can be a big fucking problem. When you're taking away all the cool shit out of a game, you're losing out on that fantasy that people enjoy, that people like, you know. The whole reason people play games, and sometimes you see people play like a bunch of fucking single player games all the time. I like to point out Baldur's Gate 3 because it's the one that comes to mind that I played. Is just there's so many people that play it because they can indulge in whatever fucking fantasy and how they like to play the game that they want, you know? So that's the cool thing about it, right? So they need to learn from that. So if they come out with a game, like if Frost Giant comes out with a game, how are you going to create that, create a good game that has a fantasy that ropes people to keep playing it? You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to do that? How are you going to lasso them to keep playing that game, to keep coming back? You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, it's very simple. It's very simple psychology. You can tell David Kim is very smart. He's very successful because he knows what people like and what people think.
Of like, we clearly knew it was not enough, but we shipped it anyway, kind of thing, right? But in hindsight, for those things, maybe it's better not to even, kind of thing, right? But
yeah, that's true. But that's basically the end, guys. There's only like a minute left, so I'm pretty sure they're just going to say like goodbyes and stuff. But we actually managed to get through the entire video on this stream. I spent, damn, almost like 4 hours on this. This is a 2-hour video, so I spent about 2 hours talking through the video as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that information and that information is useful to you guys. But yeah, it does confirm a lot of things. I went from like being like obviously confident. I already knew, you know, but it just reaffirms that I'm 100% correct, that I know that he's balancing the game. And like I said, no hate toward Harstam or anything. But if he wants to succeed, he needs to get out of that woke mindset. You know what I mean? That's the problem. He needs to get out of that mindset of him, and only him. Him changes, my race my race only. He needs to start thinking about the viewers and the players and what they like, because that's the only way he is going to succeed as a streamer, or he will fail also, and then he won't be making money anymore. And so that's the thing. I'm just being realistic, guys, because I'm very passionate about the game. I care about paying my bills, you know what I mean? But if he keeps fucking things up, he's not going to be able to pay his bills either. That's the thing. So I hope that they fucking learn from it. Yeah, so that's it. You know what I mean? That's a very long-ass video. It's so late that I don't think I'm going to stream any, like, Battletech or anything like that. We will get back on track tomorrow. Like I said, we had D&D today, so I did something a little off by watching this video. It was important to me because I do look up to David Kim. He's a very smart guy. I can tell that he's a mathematician. Every single point that I've written down, I've been trying to execute, and there is a reason why he's still doing well and he's rather successful, whereas a lot of other companies and stuff are like getting thrown into debt, even though he might be jumping between different dev groups, it sounds like. He's a very smart guy, so I have a lot of respect for him, and I thank him for, you know, bringing esports to North America, because I would have never had the opportunity to be a streamer, because it helped me a lot in the past, especially during some really tough times. And so I really hope that the game continues to succeed. I hope it continues to do well. And I hope that they try to set their feelings aside, like the Balance Council guys, feelings aside for me, and actually try to go in the right direction with this, because, like I said, I do know what I'm talking about. I keep getting reinforced with my statements. I keep predicting outcomes. I can't be that good at it if I wasn't right about it. And so that's just kind of how my brain is ticking. You know, I'm not trying to be egotistical. It's just the facts aligned that way. Anyways, I will catch you guys tomorrow. I'm going to enjoy what night is left, and then we'll get back on track. All right? We'll have StarCraft streams and all the things again tomorrow. All right? So I will see you guys.